For all of you who've been listening to our podcast for the past year or so, know that we always like to talk about camera gear, camera news, lens news, whatnot, technologies in photography. We always wanted to do something that hopefully be more inspiring to all of you, as a photographer, right? We all love making images, so hopefully this new series of interview will do just that. And today we are going to bring in a special guest, a friend of mine, whom I know, for almost 10 years, I believe. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. And in fact, I actually made the video of Jean, our guest now, and then about 10 years ago. That's one of our first YouTube videos. So believe me or not, so you can actually track all the way back to our beginning of YouTube channel and find that video. I'm going to put the link in the description after today's chat, so you can actually see that. So that also showcased some, how Jean actually worked behind the scene as well. So some of the images you're going to see from him is basically, coming from, his creativity, and he's just such a nice gentleman. Not only that, but he's also a very, very talented image maker. Right, so let's bring him in, and his name is Jean Cazals. Hello, Jean.
Thank you.
Hi, Jean.
Hi. Nice to be there with you guys.
Yeah, I can't believe that it's been that long since I first met you, right, Jean?
Yeah, I didn't realize it was 10 years. Actually, it was more like 5-6 years, but my God, times fly.
You know what? You look exactly the same to me.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah.
Thank you. You as well. You as well.
You are keeping very, very well. And so over the past few years, I think we've seen a lot of changes. Not just the world, but also in photography. And I also see that you have also expanded your career into almost like multifaceted. It's not only when I first met you, you were known for your food photography, right? And so you were award-winning, you were published food photographer. You've been around the world photographing, Michelin star restaurants and chefs and everything like that. It's just amazing. But now you're doing a lot more than that now. So would you like to go through about just very briefly, who you are, and also, how you get into, let's say, the world of photography from the beginning?
So we try to make a long story short, really, because it's a bit of a sort of many years of it. I mean, yep. I fell into it because, well, I always loved photography. I wanted to be, I always say that because it was something still close to my heart. I love medicine, and I wanted to be a surgeon originally. Yeah, I love medicine, and I was not good enough at school. So I just thought, well, the next best thing would be photography. And I picked up photography. My parents said, look, you need to speak English. You've got to do some studies. So we'll send you to England to do that. It's one of the best places to go and do that. So I went study in England at LCP. And then the rest, it just came up. It was a different era as now, of course, very different. Yep. And, you push the buttons, one, left, right, center, and then you get meetings and you see the people and you get work and things flows. So that's what happened. I've been doing that for 40 years. Actually, you know what, Jimmy?
Yep.
It's actually this year's 40 years.
Oh my goodness. You look 45 to me, so you started when you're 5?
40 years, Jesus Christ, since I left LCP. Yeah.
You never said that to me, Jimmy.
Oh, because we are the same age.
No.
So, okay, that certainly is interesting to hear, because I guess I can kind of resonate some of that as well, because I didn't start it as a photographer. I studied engineering. I started as an engineer designing buildings. And then it was only later at my stage when I, started to get into photography and eventually become a proper professional photographer. So I can kind of relate that in some way. And, it's not something that you originally thought you would be doing. And all of a sudden, you are known for photography. Kind of a little bit of a strange things going there. And so in terms of, photography journey, and obviously there are so many different types of photography, so many different genre of photography, and how and why would you just go for food? Or was it just something you stumble upon accidentally?
No, I didn't start with food. I started with portraiture, and fashion was a thing. Right. The photographer who really pushed me to do photography was a guy called Guy Bourdin, French photographer, right. Very, very famous fashion photographer. Guy Bourdin was in the same line as Helmut Newton and all these people, very high hand, but very, very quirky in his approach to fashion, very
Yeah.
on the edge.
Oh.
And his colors was very important, the shape and the quirkiness of things and the way he created imagery. It was like a Alice in Wonderland. It was not just an image, it was a storyline through each images. So that really seduced me.
Yep.
And all through college, when I went to LCP, it was at the back of my mind. And it's only when I finished LCP that I really started to see people, and it didn't pick up. It just didn't pick up. I had to go to the army for 2 years first, which I didn't say, which was a bit of a...
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was very interesting because I was a photographer on Warzone and things like that, which was very different. And when I came back, I just started to do portraiture because that was much more palatable to everybody to get work and so on. And I love portraiture, and I really love portraiture, which I did for 10 years.
Right.
And then eventually things changed, the fashion changed. That was back to my mid-90s. There was a bit of the grunge and stuff like that was coming. And I was approached by Delia Smith, who was well-known. That was Jamie Oliver of the time.
Right.
And she basically said, oh, I'd like you to work for us on trips and things like that. So I love traveling, which I did a lot. And then little by little, she sort of crept in saying, oh, I'd like you to do some food. I said, oh, yeah, I like to do food, but I mean, I like to eat it. I don't automatically like to sort of shoot it. Because I was more on the location-based photography, because doing portraiture and so on. And I started to do food, and food was started to be the big thing here. I was working for Vogue Australia already, and various magazines like that. The style was different there, technically. And there was much more soft focus than here. It was very in focus, 5:4 camera and so on. Anyway, I started to work, and it was very well paid. And I started to work and starting to do all the Sunday supplements, and the work was coming. So I thought, wow, this is really good. I'm enjoying myself. I was doing restaurant and everything. And that's how I came up to pivot from portraiture to food.
Right.
But I still missed.
And you got to eat the food right after that.
Yes. And I always say, I had to do something between lunch and dinner, so I had to take some portraiture, some pictures.
Fantastic. Right. And obviously, this live stream is going to go on for a little bit. And usually we wait for the audience to join the live stream. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes before, sure, most of the people arrive. So we're going to chat away a little bit, just getting to know more about you before we starting to showcase your photos, so that, hopefully everyone who'll be watching right now will get a little bit of inspiration from what Jean does, and then also, learn a little bit about the art of creating an image. I think that's how I would put it, right, Rod? I think you saw the images; they're quite inspiring.
I think so. After Jimmy told me you were going to be our guest, Sean, I did take a long look at your website, and I was quite amazed by the work you've done, I have to say. And
Thank you.
It seems to me, that the attention and the work and the consideration you put into your images is at a very high level, probably a higher level than most people would attempt. So do you think this kind of separates the professional photographer from the amateur, the work they do, and the efforts?
I don't think so. It's just my vision of doing things, and in general, I'm like that. I'm very precise about everything I do. I think I'm a bit ADHD actually, because everything is very conceived and thought through. And when I make an image, I get inspired by books, by music, by other books, by storyline. I like the image of stories. So then I build the story. But it's true that the details, elements, is very important for me. I like to get everything in control. Even so, afterwards, when you got everything in control, you can make it more relaxed and just create in a dynamic. But I like to start with something, and sometimes, it's come naturally. I have to say it come naturally. It's not something I work on. I mean, it's something which come naturally of putting things A, B, C, D, the background, the foreground, what's going on. It's all about harmony for me. Photography is harmony, and everything's got to work like music.
So it's not something you've practiced. It's something you can see straight away is necessary
I
to
would say
make a
yes. I
successful
mean,
image.
by having shot so many years, then it's like sport, and then it gets more natural. It come naturally. But it's true. Like for example, when I go traveling, I take pictures. I wouldn't say the pictures comes to me, but sort of. I see it, and I can frame it and shoot it. But I think it's exercise after so many years. I think for a lot of photographers at the beginning, I mean, I've done some lectures and I've seen students and assistants and people like that have helped. And sometimes I do one-to-one to people who want to learn more about visualization, how to see things. It's more about how to see things, because people talk a lot about techniques and this and that. But I think it's more about how to see space and what you put in the space and the relation with everything. And I think you can talk about that for portraiture, reportage, food, you name it, fashion. There's always a dynamic created.
Yeah.
Even when you take Cartier-Bresson, for example, which we always take as a reference. There's snaps, but it's amazing how the composition is so perfect every time. But I think Cartier-Bresson had that in his eye. I mean, that's how he saw things.
It strikes me with Cartier-Bresson that there is nothing in his images that is there by accident.
No.
Which is what?
And I think there is nothing in his photographs that is there by accident.
Yes.
Everything is arranged on purpose. So it looks spontaneous. But
yeah. I mean, for example, the man who jumped over the water. I mean, a lot of times it's a moment. I mean, he talked about it and he wrote about it, the moment. And he's there to capture the moment, and he can do it. And I think it's a huge talent, because for me, for example, I create the thing, so it's easier. But to catch every time the right moment, the decisive moment, which he called it.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's fabulous. Very few photographers can do that.
No.
That's right. I mean, especially if you considering the time when he was doing photography, things were very different to what we know of today. Like we now can have like human tracking. We can shoot 60 frames per second. And you think about in the olden days, especially when Henri Cartier-Bresson was photographing, film speed was slow. And then everything was a lot slower, and then you can only do that particular shot at that moment in time. You can't do like multiple clicks. He was using just a rangefinder. You just do that one frame.
And there was no snap focus. It has to be focused. So I mean, it's incredible.
So it is a very different ball game altogether. So to be able to time it right, like you said, it's a talent. But like Rod said, I think his work was amazing, because everything was pre-planned, pre-arranged, even though it is a moment. But he's been to those places. In every photo that you saw, he's been to those places multiple times. He studied an environment. He studied the light. He studied everything. He studied the people's behavior. He knows a lot of people like to jump across the pond. He knows that. He's been there many times.
I don't know. I mean, what he had, he came from a wealthy family, and he had the luxury to have time for himself to wander the street of Paris and travel. And then, of course, he was commissioned. But he had plenty of time on his side to actually lose time, like we say flâner in French, which means going around without any purpose, to actually, because you need time to do these things. You might maybe take one shot a day, or maybe 3 shots a day, or no shots at all. I mean, you know what it is. It's street photography is something you can't control. It happens when it happens.
No, of course, yeah. But what I'm saying is, I think he made himself kind of familiarize himself with that particular frame. He knows when he sees things like he see that naturally. He thinks that would be a good composition. Yeah. All he needed is things to do. Something happen in front of you, and I think that's what happened there.
Yeah, I mean, I think sort of. I mean, I still argue that what he captured was sometime happening just like that in front of his eyes, and he saw it. And if you take, for example, what's his name, which has been quite controversial. I love his work. Went to India and did all these book of colors in India and everywhere.
Not Steve McCurry. No.
Steve McCurry.
Steve McCurry.
Steve McCurry is amazing. I love his work.
Yep.
But it's been said that few images have been actually arranged.
Yeah.
They were not completely like click. They were just put together to look like, not all of them, but
No,
few of
but
them.
majority of the front covers that you see, they are properly arranged. Most of them, anyway. That I saw, photo
Yeah.
books and everything. Yeah.
Is that necessarily a bad thing if the image is satisfying at the end of it? I suppose
Yeah, no,
it's
no,
whether you feel it's a
it's not a
deception or not.
problem. As
No.
long as you let people know that it's what happened,
Yes,
and it's
yes.
not make them believe that it's au naturel when it's
Yep.
actually been, arranged. That's all. But
But
otherwise, yeah, if the picture is great, the picture is great.
it
But
did
it's
strike me.
yeah. Sorry,
No,
Rod.
I was only going to say, Jean, it did strike me looking at your work that it reminded me somewhat of Cartier-Bresson. I know you shoot differently, but there is nothing in your photographs that shouldn't be there, and everything is exactly where it needs to be to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I always said. I've worked for Nikon and did some lectures and stuff, and I always say, it's about what to include and what to exclude in a picture. That's what it's all about, photography. It's what you keep in the frame and what you take out of the frame. And either by cropping or when you work in a studio or somewhere by putting things together. But
Yep.
it's always what's in and what's out and how you crop things. And you could send 10 photographers to the same spot. You'll have 10
Yep.
different images, more or less the same, but it's one will be a winner and another one will be, he missed it. And that's the difference between somebody who's got an eye to somebody who is competent.
Yep. I think I like the word you or the phrase you mentioned about what to include, what to exclude in the photos, and obviously it resonates to a lot of probably debates over time. People talk about croppings and things like even in street photography. Things were cropped out and for either aesthetic purposes or to change the narrative of the photograph, which doesn't actually imply in a certain way if you include the entire frame, but once you crop out certain things, it looks completely different.
Completely. Now the problem is, I shouldn't say a problem, it's the dynamic has changed now with Photoshop, with the fact that you can add things, but I won't even go into AI. But a lot of images, sometimes you think, okay, what's real in there as what's not real. I mean, I'm a bit of a sucker, but maybe because I'm old. I'm thinking in a very old-fashioned way of thinking, if I can get everything into the camera when I shoot, that's the best. The more I can get in camera, that's the best. And a lot of people now shoot thinking, I can do that in post, I can do that in post. Great, because some people will think, okay, at the end of the day, that's the image who counts, which is fair enough. But maybe from the old school of learning, to me, to get the image all together in one shot, it's a satisfaction I have. I say, I've got it into one shot. When you go traveling, I mean, for traveling, there's so many things you can change, the sky and this and that. And you think, okay, fine, you can do that. But then just do use AI. And I think photography, personally, I always talk about me.
Yeah.
In terms of my vision, I think the more you can capture the reality, it's better. I feel more satisfied with me than bringing a lot of things in. Of course, we clean images. Of course, we take that out, or the socket, or maybe a thing. But there's a point where you clean an image to the point where you change the image to such a level that it's not the original. And I always say I'd love to see, I'm a soft photographer, I'd like to see the original raw file and see the difference, because you'd be very surprised.
Well, a thing I tried to explain to people, I mentioned it on this live stream before, is that I review a lot of software. I write about AI and generative AI and image retouching, etc. Personally, the more artificiality I add to any of my photographs, the more, to me, it diminishes them in a strange kind of way. They become better images to look at, but they no longer feel I don't have the same feeling for them anymore.
Yeah,
I can't really explain it very well, but
I get it.
Yeah,
there was a few years ago. There was a World Press, the famous World Press photography, and there's always an image every year, which is the one. And a few years ago, there was this photographer who took a picture of it was during a war, because it's always during the war they manage to get the shots for some reason, or people starving or war, or it's always around that subject. Anyway, the picture was quite amazing, but they discovered afterwards that actually the photographer did add a cloud of smoke, more guns, more things to create a dynamic. So he did create, it was a beginning where, you know, all these things started to come in Photoshop, and they say, oh my God, this is really changing the whole game. And now that's what they have to say, the picture mustn't be affected by Photoshop and so on. And the guy was taken out as a winner, because he says your image on the world press has to be what you saw, not change into something else. So that was the beginning of image alteration, where you're not, it's like fake news kind of thing if you think about it. It's like you don't know if this is a real McCoy or not.
Yeah.
But that's the name of the game now. I think the new generation is to be used to AI, to all these things, which is great. I mean, let's put it this way. In terms of creation, it's incredible. We're all going to learn about prompting and so on. But it's it's just a different game. It's different.
It is.
It is. I think maybe one day we should have a round table. We invite a lot of different photographers. We all sit together and talk a little bit about, you know, the impact on post-production, you know, and in photo manipulations and AI regenerative images and things like that. You know, I think there'll be quite a good discussions there, because I guess all three of us here now are old enough to remember the old days when, you know, you basically do everything, you know, as is with the shot, you know.
Well, we kind of did, but we photographers have always cheated, you know, in the dark room with the dodging and burning. Every time you frame a scene,
but that's effects.
Choosing what to put in.
That's effects, though. That's effects.
That's not to burn. Okay. Because I did a lot of black and white, and you just, it's to me like comparing to cooking. It's like you add a bit more salt or pepper. You change the seasoning, but the dish is there.
That's a good.
You're not
that's a
cooking
good
chicken for
good
meat.
point.
That's what I'm saying.
You
enhance. You don't change.
Yeah,
no,
unless
you enhance and emphasize.
Yeah, you're not changing a plate of fish into beef.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Okay. Looks like we got starting to have some comments flying through. So if any of you want to ask John about anything, I'm going to highlight them so we can ask him probably towards the end of the stream. But I think maybe is now we should start looking at some of your images, and we'll start to go through. Maybe for me, you know, my favorite is always going to be your food photography, because I think they're just immaculate. I think they're just so good to, you know, even I'm not coming from a food photography background, I just enjoy every single photo of them. You know, just amazing, not only just to look at, but actually to think deeper than just about, you know, what's presenting inside the image. So let's go through here. Let me see, bring it in. So hopefully that will be the very first shot here. So obviously, Sean, you don't have to tell us every story behind every photo. We can continue to chat away about, you know, things that is important to you. But at the same time, you know, I think Rod may also want to ask you a few things about, you know, from the technical side of it as well, how you shot these images. But for me, I think from artistic point of view, I always like how you choose your colors and how you choose patterns that work with the images. I think it's just simply clever.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, this one was, I was working with a chef, with a famous chef, Pierre Gagnère, with a Michelin star chef at Sketch and Numero restaurant in the world. Yeah. And we were doing the book of Sketch, which came out last year, which is a big doorstopper. And he was he's a very, very creative and a very, very nice chef. I mean, he's one of the chefs I prefer the most to work with. And everything is open to him. He says, Jean, you don't have to shoot the plate of food. You can just get inspired by the dish. And I said, oh my God, this is great. And he had those smoked mackerel. And to me, I just saw that sofa and I saw a mackerel. I said, look, it's just the same. And I like Dali and I like all those surrealists. And I like the fact it was like a sandwich, it was like 2 pieces of bread with fish in it. And it didn't take very long. It just took 2 minutes to shoot that. But it was just to get the idea together and the graphics of it. Was
the fish wrapped in gold foil to eat? Is that how it's
No.
presented on
They
the
were
plate.
they were smoked like
So that's the
mackerel
color
or
they
something.
are. Right, right.
Yeah. They were just cooked. I mean, you could have eat them straight out afterwards, but I don't know. I just when I saw the sofa, I saw, oh my God, this is God given because the cloth and the gold
Yes,
gilt
yeah.
was just matching it.
I
And some
imagined you brought it with you.
yeah, almost. I mean, sometimes it's just take 2 seconds, and sometimes you spend
Yes, you see it.
half an hour, and sometimes usually I don't tend to spend too much time on shots. So I say, look, guys, if it's not working, we come back later to
Right.
it because otherwise you force it. I don't like to force
Yes.
things
Yeah,
and try
yeah.
to mix things. So you say, okay, we'll move on to the next things, and then we come back later, and then the flow will come back. But sometimes it just takes 2
That's
minutes. Sometimes it takes more. It's the way it is.
that's interesting. So you think that you have to have this kind of flow state for photographs to work. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's not me. It's my mind who dictates the picture,
Yes.
Yep.
who
Yes.
sees things, and we
I
put them
think
together, and I shot it.
I think we've all had the experience of going somewhere to take photographs and it's just not working. And the harder you try, the worse it gets. So I think it might be kind of reassuring to all of us that even a professional has to say at some point, this isn't working. We need to come back to it later.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about still life, food, studio photographer, location. If you, I mean, if we're talking about travel, street, that's a different ball game
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
because you're playing with something that you can't control.
yes.
Now I'm talking about things I can control. Even when I do portraiture, I treat portrait exactly like food or food like portrait. For me, they're things that I put within a space,
Yeah.
whether they're called famous people or it doesn't really matter. For me, I see things and objects that I put in a space.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I think because, for those who already know me well enough, because I shoot portrait professionally, so I've been doing that for many years now, and I always say when I do my workshops, I always say to my student, if you can, do 99% of the photograph when you click the shutter button, and save yourself not only just time, but any work in post-production. You're more or less the same. I saw you when you're working, when we did the video way back, and you literally take the shot. It's more or less perfect. It's almost like basically 99% is there. All you need to do is just adjust a little bit in post, and if anything needs to tidy up a little bit here and there, and the image is practically there. That's always what I said to people. I'm talking about professional shooting, not necessarily street photo, like you said. Street is very different. There, things could happen randomly. Light could change in a split second. Things, But when it comes to portrait, when it's something that you can almost control all elements of it, then you better take control of it and make sure that's the image you want.
Yeah. But sometimes, the thing which I love with photography is you just don't know what's going to happen, and sometimes you go out and you do the shot, sometimes you don't. I mean, that's what I love about photography.
Yeah.
That was, for example, I was going to have lunch in the garden.
Right.
I was preparing a salad, and I had a bit of a headache. That's why there's a pill. And all of a sudden, I noticed everything. It was a summer. Everything was white, and I said, "Oh my God, this is great! Everything is white." And I just brought the knife in just to make it a bit more, interesting. And that was it. But it was not planned. It's just I saw the light, I saw the shadow, and I saw the peel will be funny because just the egg and the knife would be fine. But the fact there's a peel which got nothing to do, but it's still white and it's got the shape, gives this quirky element to it.
It's interesting to me because all of the pictures I've seen of yours, they can be looked at literally, but there's also a story for anyone who wants to think about it or make one up.
Yep. It certainly makes you thinking when people if people don't know you, or you before you even tell us any story, people think, what is that pill doing upon the plate? And but for me, I mean, I really enjoy the aesthetic side of these images. I just think that the elements in this frame would place almost perfectly, the angle of the knife, the angle of the light, coming from one side, to me, just you know, at least to my eyes anyway, it makes sense. So I think it's just really, really cool just to see that. And then you turn into you know, basically black and white. It just, you know, it's just kind of my thing as well. I like black and white.
Where there was no color there anyway.
You've got a white egg. You've got a white egg, and they're hard to find here in the UK.
I mean, you know what? I think
eggs.
actually, I don't know if it's I think it's a color shot, but because everything is black. No, I must have taken no, it's a black and white because I changed the color temperature.
Okay.
Right, let's have a look at another one. And there are so many good photos here. I'm telling you that you guys are really spoiled with like amazing photography today. Oh, look at this one.
That was for a client who created macaron, and it was a new collection of macaron. And she wanted to create an imagery for her website and so on. And she said, "Oh, look, just do what you want." I said, "Oh, great, thank you to give me carte blanche, as we say. You know, you can do whatever you want." And each images were created a bit like some kind of tableau of. Again, you know, I went to this prop house, which is in Kensington, nearby where I live in Notting Hill, and it's called the Lacquer Chest, and they've got a lot of stuff. And I was wandering around for hours, and I was picking up things which did inspire me, because the macaron is always the same. It's two little biscuit with something in the middle, so you can do virtually whatever you want. And I wanted to do like a fashion thing, so I saw all these buttons, and I thought that would be funny because the macaron is like a button. And then I saw those clothes, picking it up, and then everything took shape, and I played with it. The thing which took the much time was to place the ribbon. That took a while. But again, I saw that image in my mind looking at the button.
It seems to me you have a very careful, perhaps strict control over colour. You like to make sure that the colour in your shot is very carefully chosen and managed.
You know what? I think everything I put in the picture is carefully managed. I don't put anything which got nothing to do with it has to be right.
Yes.
Or else.
All the buttons have to be black. Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, one thing that I'm pretty sure there's anyone who's watching right now will probably ask later on, and you don't have to tell us yet. We can talk about it maybe towards the later stage of today's stream. Is how you create such a soft and evenly lit scene. So I know how it works because I've seen how Sean works. so I know the answer, but I want him to talk about it because it's amazing. Because a lot of people, when they do photography, you know, and they may not necessarily get such a soft look to the images, and then and also evenly lit through the entire frame, which is a very tricky thing to do, especially when you are at location, for instance. But Sean has obviously a special way of doing things, so we can let him talk about it later. So let's go for another one.
So that was for it was shot for a hotel brand called Intercontinental Hotel, for where I worked for a few years as a client. And again, we were creating a catalog of images for the website, for the hotel in general, for advertising and everything. So we had to go through the bars and the different rooms and so on. And we wanted to create something sort of atmospheric. And the barman came with his drink, with his smoke, and I said, "Oh my God, this is so lovely." And as he was pouring it, I just took the picture. But I had few pictures because I wanted the smoke to be right. So you have to take a lot, of course, but not that many. And then, because when the glass is full, the glass is full. And that was it, really, you know, sort of 2.8 kind of thing, and that's it.
Oh, you know what? This is one of my favorite images I've saw, and even used this image as a thumbnail for today's chat, and it's brilliant. I love this photo. Just go through a bit of the thought process on when you create this image.
So that was for sketch again, and basically that was a terrine of fish with the toast and so on, and we had, you know, this placemat you can buy 40 placemats, they're all stuck together. You can use at home.
Right.
And I saw that. I said, "Oh, that would be great to use it for a shot." And I thought that dish would be the right shot. But I thought, okay, you know, just having this toast on the thing is fine. But, you know, I always think in imagery, and I've been telling to sort of other people when I was giving sort of a course, it's to actually, you've got the place, you got the location or whatever. Then you got the subject, but you need a third element to actually. For me, the third element is the seasoning, the salt and pepper. You can have a great plate, you can have a great dish. If there is no seasoning, it's going to be flat. So I always try to get and bring a third element in the picture to make you think or make you smile or break the thing. And that was a brush. Because people always think, oh, why a brush? And exactly, why a brush? And then I was thinking always, when I got the brush, I saw, I'm going to do a shot. We always say we paint with light. So I said, okay, I'm going to use that brush for something because I'm painting with light. And then I saw that would be fun to put it there. And I think it works.
It does work. It does work. I mean, I don't know, Rod, do you have anything to add? I just think this is a really amazing photo.
I think for me, the wit in this photograph is using an illustration of a plate and a knife and a fork and a spoon, which you don't immediately see, but then when you see it, it's just a strange element that makes the image much more compelling. I imagine perhaps you commissioned an artist to make this for you, but now I find you found it in a shop, but it's fine.
But it's funny because. Sorry, go ahead.
I was only going to say that I think this is what I find extraordinary about your work and some of the best photography is the idea of putting things together that most people wouldn't have thought of. So
I think it's a frame of mind,
Yes.
I think it's a frame of mind. It's like writers who write, Stephen King, who comes out with all these crazy ideas, and you think, where does he go and find these things? I think it's the way your mind is done, and then after doing it, your mind gets into that groove. Yes. That's what makes us all different. And sometimes I see other photographers, I say, oh my God, how did they do that? I think we are all with our mind to create things based on things we are within ourselves or our education or the thing we like in art, art, music. A lot of things are influencing me and give me, and I bounce on. And I like surrealism.
Sorry, guys. Just give me 2 seconds. You can keep going ahead. I just need to sort out a parcel.
A parcel?
Yes. This is one of the things we routinely get on these live streams. One or other of us has an Amazon delivery. So when the Amazon man comes, you've got to go. You got
to go. But no, what I was going to say, Rod, it's the fact that we come back about the lighting before, but a couple of people, when I was on location, sometimes they say, it's funny, your imagery looks like trompe-l'œil. You know trompe-l'œil?
I do, yes.
And that's a bit of a trompe-l'œil.
Yes.
Where you don't know if it's real or not real.
But also the style of the illustration is of that time. So it kind of echoes that feeling. But I do like it because I'm quite sure a lot of people would look at that and think very hard and say, oh, the brush is for brushing the terrine on the bread.
It could be
butter. I don't know, but that's the joy of it. You can make up any story you like, but exactly. You feel there is a story.
Yeah, I mean, it's really up to the person who look at the work, who just sort of create his own. It's like painting, where you create your own storyline, and you don't have to follow what is in front of you. You can think what you want, and I like that because people will think, why the brush? And they might think, whatever.
I think it's always good for photographs to leave you with a question.
Yeah.
not to reveal everything straight away, but to leave you thinking and wondering.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's important to think about things.
I think it's really interesting as well, because when you go to an exhibition, for instance, when you look at images, and I'm more happy and I feel more satisfied when I have to think about images after seeing the image. If you just see it, just there and then, it's a nice scene, it's a nice, nicely composed, a sharp image, and you walk away without having any afterthoughts. I think that to me doesn't quite work for me. So when I appreciate something, I just would like to digest it, take my time, leave the exhibitions, go outside, drinking a little bit of coffee, sit down, actually rethink about some of those images that I saw. And that's when I think, okay, those are really great images.
Yeah, and even sometimes when I go to exhibition or whatever the exhibition, My phone is like a notepad, and even when I go to the National Portrait Gallery or whatever, I get inspired. Or wherever I go in the city, I go to museum and things, and
Yep.
I take maybe close up or details of something, or even magazine. Just say, oh, that's a good idea. That's something I could, I'm like a sponge. I take things and I create things, and
Yep.
bounce on other things.
Yep. So that's the next image, and I like it. It's almost like you can always say monochromatic. It's just like kind of like a blue, everything just blue, and it just got certain elements of it that just pops. And it's great use of negative space as well in this particular photo, and I just think it's like a double down, on the usage of basically single color and lots of empty space.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I did that. I just I saw that bird. I said I need to do a picture of that bird, and I saw that glass coming with this sort of a coffee. What's the name of it?
It's
Espresso
an
martini.
espresso martini. Yeah.
Yeah, and this long neck remind me the neck of the glass, and the little head on the top of the head of the bird. You got this white thing, and then it remind me the foam on the thing. And that's all of a sudden I saw sort of a similarity between the two, and I said to the waiter, just hold it there, and I just like all this. I just liked it it doesn't mean anything. I just like the shape of it and the bird looking at the glass.
That's the joy of it. I think the bird itself is quite strange, but then having the cocktail on the silver tray alongside it, that's strange, and it leaves you with so many questions. But I'm fascinated to learn that you just saw this and took it, because these environments are not necessarily very well lit.
Yeah.
I assume that was very carefully set up over time.
Mm.
So this is, I think I've seen this image before, and is it also for one of your clients as well, this one?
Yeah, that actually got me I won the, what was the name of this thing? Food photographer, Pink Lady Food Photographer of the Year, which is called now something else. Yeah. And I won with that one. And that was, gosh, I don't remember what it was for. But yeah, so the chef brought the sandwich. But again, I saw, okay, I like the sandwich. I put that stone behind. It's got those veiny thing who remind me of the cheese. And I said, we need something to bring something bigger than that. And I just took this knife and I just plunged it into it, which made the cheese to ease more.
Yeah.
And the texture of the knife with the background, with the cheese, it's all about texture, but it's about the softness of the cheese and the yumminess of it. And but then you got this knife, which is very hard edge. It's just your position of soft and hard. So again, you can see what you want, but it's about, it's really the soft and the hard together, which really make the picture for me.
So do you mind if I ask a question about how you work? If you are commissioned to do some photography at a restaurant, do you have the kitchens and the chefs at your disposal, or do you have to kind of watch on the side and take your opportunities when you see them?
Alors, the thing is, a lot of clients, they choose a photographer for how he shoots. So you got photographer who shoot on the go, you got photographer like me who compose, you got all kind of photographers. So depending the client, I sometimes have to shoot on the go, and sometimes I've got the opportunity to work with a chef who wants something. I tend to work with not Michelin star restaurant, but high-end. So with high-end restaurant, the food is high-end, and they want something quite elegant and thought through. Now, sometimes you got chefs which are even more, avant-garde, and they want to do, what can we do with that? And sometimes if I've got the time and it's been prepared beforehand, I'll bring a lot of props with me and backgrounds. Sometimes I can't. So it really depends. You have to go with the flow, but I always know beforehand what's going to happen. So based on the time I have and the chef, I'll say, hey, we could do this, we could do that. Oh yeah, great, we'll be doing. So I bring more things. And then I know roughly what the food is going to be. And then I think sometime beforehand. and we go through the motion. Some chefs love to do that. They love to work with me, and we work together. It's very creative. And sometimes the chef is about cooking and having his plate shot, which is fine. It really depends. It really depends, and I adapt to it. But of course, if I've got the liberty to do more, I will always do more.
Right. Just before moving on to the next image, I just want to ask, did it taste good, this one? It looks good to me.
Yeah, it tastes very good. Yeah, because I can taste all these things, you see.
But,
as well.
Final comment about this image. I mean, I like the way you control your depth of field in this particular shot here, because you mentioned a few elements earlier about, the softness of the cheese and everything like that. And you also mentioned about the slate at the back there to have the pattern and everything like that. And I'm glad that you didn't really bring the background into focus as well. There is a subtle softness to it. So just to not only make the images pop a little bit more for the actual subject in question, but also, you can resonate the textures that you mentioned through the entire images, but not overpowering the actual main subject right in the middle of the frame.
It's funny what you said, Jimmy, because I shot this picture.
Yeah,
I think it's a 5.6, that one, I think. But I've done it at f11 as well. So I've done few, and that's the one I choose because exactly what you said. It's there, but it's not there. As the one which is very sharp, it's nice, but you tend to see the vein of the marble too much.
Yeah.
And then I had one which is even more soft focus, and then it was too much of a blur.
Yep.
And this fashion of shooting at f 1.2, 1.4 is a big thing nowadays. And oh my God, the bokeh, they're obsessed with the bloody bokeh. But I think why? When it looks like it's cut out, unless there is a reason for it, I think if you take a picture, you want some of the feeling of the background to a certain extent where it doesn't affect the foreground, but it's still there.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's so sharp at the front, it's so blurred at the back. It's almost like a cutout. And I don't like when it's like, I like when there's a nice progression from soft to sharp. But that's me again, huh?
Yep.
I'm not saying there's no right or wrong. It's just the way we look at things.
I think getting the knife sharp and the sandwich sharp, that is not easy to do. And I think depth of field control is a bit of a lost art today because people shoot everything in f1.4 or f1.2. But getting what you want sharp to be in focus is quite a difficult thing to do.
On the camera, there's a button. You let me see
don't
in real time all the depth of field. So I know exactly which one will look good.
Yes, yeah.
No, but it's also a choice, right? It is a trend that a lot of people do is shoot wide open with the lens. Whatever aperture is widest, they will shoot it wide open, like 2.8, 1.4, 1.0, even 0.95. They just shoot as much as possible in those aperture settings.
But why is that?
Well, I think it's more like a phenomenon, that kind of happened about maybe 15 years ago when there used to be a YouTube channel, called Digital Rev. I'm pretty sure a lot of people who are listening right now or watching right now will resonate that time in the golden era in YouTube reviews, and they were funny. They were more almost a Top Gear style kind of a photography channel. They make fun of photography, and I think there was a couple of episodes where they're starting to talk a little bit about the bokeh, the bouquet, in the back, starting to look at the shape of the bokeh. And then always starting to talk a little bit about that. And every single episode that they make, they talk about the bokeh. And then soon everyone's starting to talk about it. Soon everybody's starting to analyze it, which that was never done before. No one would even look at what shape of the bokeh behind the subject look like, or how soft it is. They never really questioned that before until, that show happened and it just became a viral thing and everyone starting to talk about it. And I think from then on, does everyone just, maybe bokeh is something we should talk about. Maybe it's something we should showcase more and more. And as a side effect, everybody's just starting to, shoot everything wide open and just to look at the bokeh at the back.
Because, talking about the bokeh and things, I'm trying to think about all those photographers that are, which when I studied and after on, a lot of photography in the 90s, 80s, even 2000. Everything was sharp. I mean, it was all shot at
Yeah,
5,
yeah.
6, 8. All this went. I mean, you look at Newton, you look at Penn, you look at all these people which have evident. They were all shooting at f11 or f8 or there was no 1.2 things. Maybe sometime, but if you look at all those great people, it was like f8. Elliot Erwitt. I mean, all these people that I can mention in my mind. Everything was sharp. I mean, everything was in the depth of field was readable.
Well, I think another thing. I mean, I actually made a video some time ago, and I actually got I got a lot of people upset about about what I said in the video. Is about the title of my video was say Bokeh is for lazy people, and then
Oh, really?
yes,
Oh,
I
dear.
did. I made that. I had a point about that, and I don't know how many people actually watched through the entire video before they got too upset and and they started commenting. And but my point was, because to have everything sharp in a frame to mean something is hard, and that was my point. Let's say if you do street photography, do storytelling, environmental portrait, even like your food photography, right? Like in things like that. If you blur everything out, just focus on the subject, that's easy. But but if you make everything behind the subject make sense, and to resonate the rest of the image, to make it look presentable and make it to coordinate with each other, somehow have that relationship there, and that is hard. So to bring everything in focus is not easy for a lot of people, and then to consider that elements of it or that side of it is even harder. So I mean, that's kind of my way of saying, even though I might have upset the people, maybe the thumbnail was a little bit too strong for that, but that was basically what I was thinking, and when I made the video. So for people who are not lazy, who like to work hard for the image, they will close it down and starting to consider things behind the subject more than just about the subject.
I mean, there's a photographer in France. You might not know him, or you might know him. I mean, he's hugely important to me. He's part of the people, which I find always amazing. It's to be able to control film, photography, fashion, portraiture, still life. If everything he does, it's at the highest level. And I think we all have a forte into something, and we do other things. But that guy, Bruno Aveillant, you can look at his work. He's got numerous awards worldwide for the biggest campaign from Cartier, from everything. And one of his campaign was for Louis Vuitton, the spirit of travel. And he's got this suitcase and it sings and he creates. And he had this piece of glass which he used to play in front of the camera, just slightly, to diffract the light. And to give an element, a dreamy element, not like a filter, but more like a diffracted the light. And then he goes to something very sharp, and he managed to go from one end to the spectrum to the other in terms of grain and sharpness and atmosphere. And I think it's very hard to do all that. And you see some people, they just love to shoot, as you said, 1.2, and everything is 1.2. Some other. I think the art of controlling both is great, and it's not always easy, because I think, like I said before, you need to it's like if you go to the mountain, you're going to use a Range Rover. If you go to the Autobahn in Germany, you're going to take a Ferrari. You use the tool of the trade for what you're going to do. And using 1.2, if it's not necessary, why? I tend to follow what my eyes follow. On this picture in front of us, that was f11 or something, f16, because I did want everything sharp. So I don't even think about it. It's like, bang, I turned the things to f16. And I think the decision is taken by the shot. And I think people tend to shoot based on the decision of making 1.2 sometime, instead of the other way around.
I sympathise with what Jimmy's saying, and I think I agree that perhaps he feels as I do, that quite often people use very wide apertures as an easy trick. When there's a lot more to photography that requires a lot more effort, but they're going straight for the easy, often spectacular option. But there's more to, for example, this shot here, this is quite extraordinary. You couldn't do that at f1.2, obviously.
No, that was an accident.
Oh,
Was
really?
that an accident?
Now, basically, the glass, the outside glass, is attached to the big part. So basically, it's a cloche, a cloche that you put on the cheese to
Yes.
protect it. And I thought, oh, that's funny. Let's use it the other way, like a glass, because it's basically a glass. So it was a basil martini. And inside I put another glass
Yep.
with the same drink. And it was standing at 45 degrees looking up. So I was there, everything was fine. It's all backlit, only backlit there.
Yep.
There's no other light, backlit. Because with drinks work with backlit because you got the transparency of the drink. You always tend to shoot a drink as 45 degrees or backlit. You don't shoot it forefront. And then as I was pressing on the shutter, the glass slide. And I had one frame, or maybe 2 frames, but that's the one where one of the glass went into it. And I said, oh my God, I couldn't do it. I think it works much better. But that was a pure accident.
Well, I think then in that case you have remarkable skill for making accidents look deliberate.
No, I just click. And I don't work with motor drive.
I wish I could do that. My accidents just look like accidents.
That's 6.7, and there's no motor drive. It's all
Of course.
Yeah. So a lot of this photograph that we see here, Jean, is a film, right? That's you when you were shooting films.
That's digital. No, so far everything I show you is digital.
Right, they're all digital, right?
Yeah, it's all digital.
Okay, right, and this one.
That's backlit again.
Yep.
It's on a light box, and basically, message in a bottle.
Oh yeah.
That's I don't remember the drink. It's a kind of drink, and they serve it in this little bottle, and you put it in your thing, and the phone number is a phone number of Sketch, which they put on the table. And I just thought, oh, that's funny. Let's put it on like a message in a bottle. And I broke the bottle, and I found it, quite interesting. I mean, visually, and this message with this number on it,
right,
instead of it in just a bottle. So I like, if possible, to try to create a story, as I said before, which is not something you expect, but trying to be with the unexpected.
Yeah.
That's a classic shot that you create with cinnamon in bars. If you use cinnamon, it does all those flames. It's always very effective,
really?
Cinnamon. Yeah. You throw cinnamon on a thing and it creates all these sort of funny lights. It's a trick in cocktail making, where
Amazing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna start trying that now.
That's why the head of the leopard, the drink, it's covered of cinnamon. If you can see.
Yes, I can see that. Yes. Right, that's interesting.
But that's a classic shot, bar shot, lit, no side lit with a flash and a bit of reflector on the right. You mix the ambient light with flash. It's a normal shot. It's a classic shot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure Rod is going to ask you about that as well. I think that there's another element that we notice in your shots, or many of your shots, is about the controlled movement that you included in the frame. Certain elements of it, when you move it just to the right amount, not overpowering but not just to the point that you freeze everything. So you mix, so it looks like it's flowing and still moving.
Yeah, it's a question of finding the sweet spot. So you've got the ambient, but the ambient gives the movement and the flash frees the rest. And it's to find the right shutter speed, just to get not too much, just get the right thing.
Yeah.
So you got to do few though.
Yep.
It's really try and tested.
Yep. Are you using second curtain or first curtain for flash?
What do you mean?
The flash where the flash initiated when the shutter opens or
No. I mean, I the flash goes and that's
it.
Right. The how do you call it? The ambient light will be done on the speed.
Yeah.
So, for example, something like that will be like maybe like 50. No, because the thing is, I play as well with the ISO. because if you go too low, then
The
even
dark
the
the
flash
background
won't
will be
freeze
black.
it.
Yes. Yep.
So
Yep.
it's a really the 3. You have to play with the 3
Yep.
to get your sweet spot.
Right.
The ISO, the speed, and the aperture. Aperture being flash,
Yep.
of course.
Okay. Right.
That was for a book
Yep.
on chocolate, obviously. And in France, we've got a very famous pastry called pain au chocolat, which I'm sure you know very well.
Oh no,
You know
I'm very friends. I'm friends with pain au chocolat.
Pain au chocolat, and that's playing on word because it's pain au chocolat. So I dipped the baguette into chocolate.
Yep.
Yes.
So
I get it.
it's just an alternative to the usual pain au chocolat that you know.
It's making me very hungry at the moment, so I may just skip through that.
That's what I want.
Oh yes.
That was with another chef in London, Pascal Ossignac, who's a Michelin star restaurant in West London, was very, very good. And again, together, we love creating things. He's very, very inventive, and I love working with him because the further we can push it, the better.
Yeah.
And when I saw this piece of meat, I saw, oh my God, it's like a Christmas cake with candles.
Yep.
So it just happened
yes.
that he had cake stands,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he had a carpet made of rabbit fur. So I said, oh my God, this is going to be great because it's all monochromic except the meat.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if you look at the fur, it's almost like smoke with fire. If you look at the way the fur goes up,
Yes.
and those bones are like candles.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Of course.
So that's
Amazing.
what it is.
I like it. I like it.
That's for a client called Gilray, which is the Marriott Group. And basically, we had to shoot those fries. And I said, oh, that would be fun to make them. You know, when you mix fries with salt, you just make them
Yeah.
jump. And I said,
Yeah.
oh, that would be a great shot. And,
Yeah.
you know, we did few of those. You can trust me. We did few because I want them to be all together. I want it to be centered.
Yep. Yep.
I didn't want it to cover the name. So we had to do about 20 of those. And
Yeah.
then we got one. And the salt is
Yeah.
nicely, we can see the salt.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So that's again, it's about a flash.
Yes.
I always use only one source of light. God gave us
Right.
one sun, so I use only one flash. And the rest is just reflectors.
Yes.
Right. Very
Very
good.
simple.
And the fries are the same color as the chef's logo.
Yeah, you could
Holy
say that.
shit.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
That was not intentional.
Ah,
Just happened.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And there again, you know, I like all these sort of side thing. I mean, it's a very basic things. And you know, a lot of chefs, you know, Japanese do that a lot. It's
Yes.
To cook with guns like that. But I
Yes.
love the flame. Again, I took few of those. But I like the sort of monochrome of it. And the only color is just the fire.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Very good.
And the blue flame and the I just love that. Because it's a very basic shot. It was in the kitchen, handheld. There was nothing really to it.
Yeah.
But the flame on it, and I love the marking on the fish and the texture of the plates. I found some plates and I love the texture, so that's going to really work well. It's very gritty.
Well, I think you say it's just a basic handheld shot, but these things aren't easy to do in these situations, particularly getting the focus exactly right. It takes a good deal of skill. I would have said.
The thing is,
Especially if a lot of
once you
things
see
are happening.
Yeah, when you see something like that, I've got a light tripod, so you put the tripod there, and then you say, okay, let's put the plate there, put the fish,
Yeah.
do that. So it's all on the tripod. I mean, I don't look through the lens; I just look at the thing, and
Yes,
it's
I see.
that. You know, with tripod now, the cameras and thing, it's I don't think, and I mean, I don't think there's a flash. I think it's ambient light. I think I did push the ISO on that one. Yeah, I put the ISO. So that must be like, what would you reckon? 250? 125? I don't know. No, not too fast because there's some blur in the yellow.
Yes.
So maybe 160s.
It could be 160, 180, something like that.
Yeah,
And
something like that. Yeah.
if it's ambient, you're probably pushing ISO 3200, something like that in that shot, probably.
And you know what? I think I must be at 2.8 or 4 because the back burner is not as sharp as the front one.
Right.
No.
So it's quite a slow shutter speed.
Yeah.
So would you always use a tripod?
If I can, yes. If I can't, I don't.
I guess that
I know
helps with the focusing too, because you're not moving.
Yeah, and it means I can redo the same shot without.
Right.
You know, the composition is great. So
Yeah.
everything else, because if you do handheld for things like that, yeah, but it will never be exactly the same.
Too many things are changing between the
Yeah.
shots.
Yeah, once you
Yeah.
got the shot and you got everything right, you know, enough hands, then I said, okay, now let's do it. But what I tend to do is I tend to shoot wide, a little wider than what I want, because I can always recrop. Because now our
Sure.
cameras have so many megapixels that I always take a little bit out just to be sure. Because if you haven't got enough and you think, oh shit, I've missed that, you want a little bit more so you can crop in, but not. If
Yes.
you haven't got it, you haven't got it, and that's annoying.
That is,
Yeah.
yes.
So I see Sean asking some questions, but sorry, not Sean, Jeff, I'm going to get back to your questions later on. I'm going to ask Sean about all this stuff. I'm already highlighting every questions that you guys are asking at the moment. So we're going to have a little bit of that Q&A towards the end. So let's move on to the next one. And, oops, hang on a second. Where is it gone? Oh, hang on. Yeah, that's an interesting shot, I think, this one.
Yeah, that was in. It was in a gallery. It was in Bordeaux. It was part of the wine museum of wine. No, I don't know if it's a museum. It's not a museum. And there was this room, and I saw that room, and I went around, and I couldn't move a bit of the glass and stuff, and I saw, oh my god, the setup was great. I moved a bit the stool at the front. And I saw it was very, you know, sort of Alice in Wonderland again.
Yeah.
And all those bottles and things without any liquid, you know.
Yeah. It's the table lit, yeah? I think it's the table lit, right?
Yes, backlit.
Right.
There's a light inside the table.
Interesting.
That's just
That
amazing.
that was funny. That was I love coal, and it was a choufa. It's a stuffed cabbage, and basically, I took a blowtorch, and I blowtorched the coal until it got red,
Yep.
and then I just took the hand out and just shot a lot very quickly, and by the time, you know, there's few seconds where it stay red, and I caught that. But so it was quite fun to just see the red coal.
Yeah.
Because without the red coal, again, as I said before, the third element, if it was just a cabbage on coal, that's fun. But the fact that you've got that red coal, it brings a quirky element. It just brings something else.
It just brings
Brings some warmth.
extra mile, yes.
Yeah, and it's got the same texture as the cabbage leaves as well. And it's all about textures. I mean, it's not always easy to find a third element. I'm just saying. But I always try to search for it. If I can't, I can't.
Yeah.
But I always try to bring another element just to make the picture a little bit more special. Here, I broke the plate, so that will be fun to break the plate instead of just being a plate.
And again, I think the placement of everything you put on there is immaculate. You know, just the spacing of it, just the orientation of the every little bit of it is really well controlled in this one.
I love, for example, to tell you exactly the truth about that picture.
Yep.
The meringue and the passion fruit and the walnut are not on the actual plate. They're on a piece of glass above the plate.
Ah, ooh, let me study a little bit more. Okay.
You can't see it. And that's a nice trick to use because it means that you can do things without
Yes.
because it's just above it.
Yep.
To create a shadow, so you think it's on it, but it's not on it. And if you really look at it, you will realize it cannot be on it because the position of things compared to
Yeah.
the shadow of the curve, they
Yes.
wouldn't stand like that. But when you look at it like that, you don't think about it.
Yes. Yes. No, I can see that now. Yes.
It seems to me you not only do you have a lot of quite remarkable ideas, but you seem to trust your instincts and to go with them.
Yeah, oh yeah, completely.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. But the glass is a good trick for you listeners. Glass can help you a lot sometimes.
Well, we learned that now. That's good. That's good. I wonder if we can use it for portrait.
Of course. Oh, a lot
Yes.
of people did that with
Yes.
various sort of glass and things. You can do great
Yeah.
stuff.
I've seen people shooting from underneath, upward. I've seen that
Yeah.
done before. Yeah, that's cool. And that's
That
interesting.
was with this restaurant in Old Street. Isaac Mike Earl is a famous chef, Michelin chef, one of the top 50 in the world. God, that's embarrassing. I don't remember the name. It's going to come back. Basically, I saw that piece of lard, a large piece of lard, which is about 3/4 of a meter
Right.
by 50, sort of piece. But for some reason, I just saw it looks like when I picked it up, it looks like a little black dress. So I went to the coat room and I picked up a hanger and I put it on a black background, like if it was a dress being hanged. And it looks like a garment, doesn't look like a piece of lard.
No. Yeah, that's really
That's
good.
extraordinary. When you go to a location, are you constantly looking for
Yeah.
backdrops that you can use? Yeah.
I mean, I used to use floors before when I started.
Yeah.
And people were always like, what do you mean you're shooting on the floor? I say, yeah, the background. Look, it's a great background. And then afterwards, all those companies started to create textured background on papers, which is amazing, by the way. And there is a company called Black Velvet Styling, which produce amazing backgrounds. I mean, you can go to that place. They're really nice people, and they create amazing fake background. But when you shoot on them, swear to God, you think it's stone or it's wood or it's whatever. And now, you got all these backgrounds. So when I go on a shoot, sometime when I do food, depending what it is, I ask them what they want, and I bring 20 backgrounds
Really?
based on the sub. Yeah, and they're so happy because sometimes in the old days you used to shoot on the table, or
Yes.
so you go around the block a couple of times and you think, oh shit, where am I going to go? So those backgrounds you can really create. So now the thing is, like everything, everybody goes to those places, so you can see those background popping out all the time. As before, it was more of a novelty at the beginning, but it's really practical, very practical.
It looks good. Definitely looks good.
That was what we had as an idea was to freeze. I don't remember what it was. In a tray, we froze a drink of some kind,
Right.
and then we took it out of the freezer, and then we put that on it. So all those elements are the element of the recipe served in the restaurants, but I made it like a modern painting.
Yeah.
Normally, it's like a little nest with the yolk of the egg, the tapioca, nicely dressed.
Ah,
And I
it's
start to forget
tapioca.
that.
Right.
I just said, let's put it like a modern painting. So I place the
Yeah,
tapioca in a special way, because I always have tweezers with me. I live with my tweezers, and I place everything. Yeah, it takes a while to do that. The picture takes 2 seconds. It's just to place the egg, put the pepper, everything is about. It's like building cards. When you play with cards and you put all the cards together.
Yeah.
It's more the setup which takes time than the actual pictures which takes 10 seconds.
Often is, even in portrait, like the makeup on the model takes about 3 hours. All you do is just a few shots of them.
It's exactly that. It's exactly that. Yeah.
I think I've had this experience. I've sometimes done some homemade still life projects for tutorials and articles, and it takes a very long time for me to get the thing how I want it to look. But the actual photography is very quick. It's just getting things
you just
arranged
snap
how
it.
you want them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, really, we could all do it on an iPhone. I know, because I
Well,
do you know
no,
something?
I
The other
I
day I was passing a place and I saw this guy taking picture in a shop. He was
Yep.
taking the garments with flash, and he was shooting with an iPhone. And I say, my God, this is amazing. How do you link your flash with your iPhone? And I believe, from what he says, if you go to Profoto,
pro
Profoto,
photo.
Pro
Yeah,
photo, yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
I think they've got an app, a system where you can actually link the
Oh,
Profoto to the iPhone. So you can
Ah,
actually use Flash sync with the iPhone. I'm just telling you that.
that's interesting. That's interesting. I didn't know about that. Okay,
Yeah.
well,
now give me some idea.
I always think if you treat a phone like a proper camera, the results will look as if they were taken by a proper camera. You don't
Well,
have all the same controls, but
it is a proper camera. It's just the definition is
yeah,
not the
yeah,
same, but it's a proper
yes,
camera. On this one,
yes.
it was influenced by a 2001 Space Odyssey. You remember the
Ah,
film?
Yes,
of
I
course,
can.
With
one
the
of my
monolith?
favorites.
But
Yes.
The
yes,
black
Ah,
monolith.
yeah.
And
But what-
that was the thing.
but what intrigued me about this particular photo is that it looks 2D. It's almost like flat, but it isn't, of course. Man, it somehow I don't know. It looks like to me, it really looked like a picture in a frame. So it's not really 3-dimensional, but then
Yeah.
it's clever. The angle of it is really clever.
You know, the thing, it was, I did few, but it was to put the frame to the right angle.
Yep.
So I had
Yes.
sort of blue tacks with fork in the back of each side of the frame, which I put at different angle to try to get the ratio where the line of the frame matches the line of the cake,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
because that was key. But because the cake is at an angle, you got a 3D element. It's a bit like the painting from Escher. You know Escher, the guy who does also drawing
Yes.
with
Yeah.
the staircase.
Yeah.
And that's what I had in mind. This sort of a, like you
Yes.
said, Jimmy, you don't know if it's a 2D, 3D. Is it been put in? Was it been added? And I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good. It's really good. It's really clever as well. I think technically it's a very, 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 hard to achieve these photos. And but what I'm thinking as well, the light that lighting the cake in the middle is spectacular. Like it's obviously behind the frame, you got things supporting it, and you don't catch any of the shadow there. And then
Well, you know what, Jimmy? It's only a soft box on the left.
right, okay,
It's a soft box on the left, and that's it.
right,
And a little sort of cardboard
yep.
on the right, just to lead the back of
Just
the
bounce
cake.
a little bit, right?
Otherwise, it will be
Right.
black, which I didn't want it.
Yeah,
But that's about it. The rest
Yeah.
is just.
no,
I just softened my light a lot. I just put about 4 layers of screen.
yep,
Make it really, really, really soft.
yes.
Diffuser. Yeah.
Diffuser, sorry.
yes,
Yeah.
diffuser,
Yeah.
yes. No, I remember how you work. Yeah, you used to put a lot of layers on it.
Yeah. So it really
Yes.
makes the lights really, because the more diffuse, the more you get definition in your highlights. You
Yes,
see, if you look the middle of the cake,
Yes.
if it was not diffuse, it will be bleached out.
Yes.
yes,
So the
Yes.
more layers, the more softness, the more details you got in the dark and the light and on the highlight and the low light.
yeah. You can see all the textures and all the unevenness of the surface. Yes,
I think this comes back to something that you discussed much earlier on, getting the photograph right rather than trying to fix it in editing, because you could shoot this as a raw file and say, oh, I can recover those highlights, but it
Yeah.
never
You know that's on
looks
film,
quite
huh?
the same. Never looks quite the same.
That's on film. That's not digital, that, by the way.
wow.
And film is interesting. Well, film is quite nice for highlights, I always felt, because it's more forgiving. They don't just stop. They're quite soft the way they roll
Yeah.
off, if that makes any
I mean,
sense.
that's Ektachrome. That's Kodak Ektachrome 100.
Ektachrome,
On
is
six,
it?
on six,
Ah,
120.
right.
That is what it is. Yeah, I just liked it, and I like to have a bit of ketchup on my egg, and I put it, and it just did this thing, and I say, "Ooh, I really like that." I think it's quite funky. It's quite, and I shot it like that. I think, you know what? I think it's an iPhone picture. And I
Really?
cropped the plate because I saw it was giving more interesting. Just the whole plate was boring, and I thought I'm going to cut
Yes.
it off.
Yeah. It's,
Again,
yep. Go on, Rod. Sorry.
It's a picture that has a why. You know, there's a question in it. You look at it
Yeah.
and you think, oh, why did that happen? You know.
Why did I cut the plate? Yeah, exactly, to make you talk.
Yeah.
So this is interesting. You know, I would like to know the thoughts behind it. You know, why would be, you know, the woman holding a fork like that, almost like he's trying to murder someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was basically I was shooting some shots. It was for a restaurant group. I don't remember the name, and we had to shoot the food, and we're using a models.
Yep.
And I thought it would be fun to do something with the hands, just sort of. Yeah. And I like red nails and I put those beads things, and it just gave another dimension. And I elevated the plate higher than the table to create this shadow, which is lit shadow. I don't know. It's like somehow the hands and the fork don't go with the plate.
Yeah.
It makes me uneasy because.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do
just
some
don't
cooking.
get it, yeah.
I would never stab one of my favourite woks with a fork.
Yeah.
That just makes me uneasy.
I just like the opposition of it because it's quite chaotic.
It's the fist as well. The
Yeah.
fist is unusual. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's very elegant, nice nails, nice things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you've got this chaotic dish, which I don't know. I just like the opposition of the two together.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, some
Absolutely.
people might like it, some people might not like it.
Right. I just noticed Jeff got one comment that I would like to bring it in, even though I was saying that, you know, the Q&A is towards the end. But I think it's interesting too. He's kind of relating to, you know, what we've been talking so far. And is that I used to shoot a lot of TV commercials on a 35mm film, and pack shots. Product shots always took the longest to shoot. The advertising agency and client would always want their say. Do you have that problem when you do like shoots like that, commercial shoots like this?
It depends, because I did advertising, commercial, editorial a lot, then for restaurant and things. So it really depends. But he's right. When you work in advertising or at that level, even for restaurant, they have a certain say.
Right.
Where they say, we need this, we need this, we need this. Okay, I shoot it. Then they know how I shoot. So I will shoot various approach to it. Sometimes you just have to shoot the way they want, and he's right. You just have to, you got to shoot.
Right.
And sometimes actually it's funny because you think to get to the process in advertising, they take 2, 3, 4 photographers and they choose one, and then it takes another few weeks to decide, and then you end up being the winner, and you think, great, finally I've got the job and everything.
Yeah.
And then when you go on the day of the shoot, you realize that anybody could have shot it. And you think, wow, this palaver, any one of my peers could have done it. And sometimes it's instead of using, because in the old days, if I may say old days, they did tend to choose photographer for their forte or their style or, Now it seems like it's a little bit, are you free on the Monday? You're not free on the Monday. Okay, so Joe Block can do it on Monday. As before, they used to be much more around me. And me, I've got to go around them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think it's a bit of both. We both got to be available.
Of course.
But we had a little bit more say, let's say. As now, it's like, there's so many people behind that whoever is free can do it. It's a different board game, let's put it this way.
It is, definitely. And unless you are, a top gun in the photography world, when they have to have your name on the portfolio, and then that's a different thing, right?
You know what? I know some really hot shots, and even them, they're suffering and they're going through. Yeah, I think the game has really changed. There's too many of us. The money has changed. A lot of things have changed. It's a different game.
Yeah.
People want film. I mean, I don't know. It's just different. I mean, nothing wrong with that. It's just we move with the time, and that's the way it is.
Yep.
That's what it is, really.
Okay, well, we'll come back to that maybe later with another different point there. But I like this image. I find it quite interesting about the texture again, about the actual background and the plate. It's got matching patterns.
Yeah, alors, I tell you, this background, if you work in the hospitality and industry of the restaurants, you know exactly what it is.
Right.
If you go to a restaurant where you got tablecloth,
Yep.
you always have this sort of a soft, because it's very soft,
Yep.
lining under the tablecloth.
Yep. Yep.
You will never put the tablecloth straight on the table. You always have that thing under it.
So
So
to give
that
a
is
little
a
bit
very,
of
very
softness
famous-
to it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, these squares are there to be able to, that if you need to cut them, you can cut them straight because there's all those lines.
Yep.
So it's a very well-known hospitality restaurant, sort of, it's like a blankety kind of thing. So
Right.
it makes your table nice and soft in Michelin restaurant and sort of smart restaurant. And it just happened that I was shooting with this chef, and he had that plate, which was mimicking the background. I said, "Oh my God, this is great! Have you got some of that carp?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Let's do a trompe-l'œil again." And
Oh my God.
so we put this macaron on it, and I said, "Oh, we need something else." And I said, "Let's put that drop of syrup just to make it. It's very Japanesey, and
Yeah,
it just
yeah,
gives
yeah.
this sort of mood."
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, I love the patterns on this one, especially the matching one on the plate as well. It's just really, really
but
cool.
People in the industry will laugh because they know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's a very specific thing.
Again, I think
that's
it's very, very monochromatic, and then you got these colors popping in the middle.
Alors, basically, what it is, it's a black background with a stone behind, which is part of the restaurant. So the table in black, and then we had this bowl, and in this bowl, they had a little support to put the plate with this food on it. But you had sort of dry ice. You know dry ice?
Yep, yep.
Dry ice, I say that for the people who look, because they don't know. It's an ice which is very, very, very cold. If you touch it, you burn yourself. You put hot water on it, and it smokes. It creates this smoke. So basically, the smoke goes around, and it gives this atmosphere, which is a dreamy atmosphere. And to make it a bit more interesting, I saw, because of the coldness of the dish, the smoke was going around the dish for some reason. So I shot a slow shutter speed, and that stuff all around, it's like a ghosty thing. This is the smoke at like half a second or something.
Yep.
So it's flashed plus half a second. That's why you got this softness everywhere.
Right.
And I thought it was more interesting than just having the smoke.
It's quite perplexing to look at that texture and try to understand what you're seeing. So it's quite interesting to hear the explanation.
Yeah, and the background reminds me the foam, because he called that a dark cloud, and I say, oh well, the background looks like a dark cloud as well.
Yeah.
So everything works again. It's very monochromatic, and just the food is
Sharp.
is color.
And and popped. I think for
It
a lot
does
of
seem-
the sorry, Rod, go on.
I was only going to say, it does seem to me that very often you get the strongest colours when you've only got one or two. You know, if you have a chaos of colours, it kind of undermines them all. But if you're very selective about your colours, as you are, I think it makes them much stronger.
Yeah, I mean, I like colors. Don't get me wrong. I love color. I like monochromy. You know, again, it's a question of balance and harmony. If it works, it works. It can be very colorful, or even sometimes it's so kitsch that it's good.
Yeah.
When it goes too crazy, it's so crazy that it's actually good because it's so crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, you know, what I was trying to say is to everyone who's listening and watching is that, you know, have some time to look at these images here that Sean's presenting, you know, and, you know, I think the creativity side of it, and also from the technical point of view, the execution is immaculate. You know, the control, the shutter speed, the depth of field we talked about, the compositions, you know, the color choice, and everything is all part of making an images look interesting, and something that I think we all photographers should learn, and I mean, to put it that way, to master, you know. And I think that's probably the better word. We're still learning every day, you know. Like I'm not saying that I'm the master myself. I'm still learning and trying to improve myself every time. But yeah, something like this is certainly very, very encouraging. That, you know, it's something that you could even try out, at home. This is the sort of thing that is quite fun to do. Sometimes to experiment. They're using slower shutter speed. Even people think that flash, you use flash to freeze moments, so not to slow it down. But in this particular case, you actually got the slow movement, but yet you did use a flash. So it's a very interesting mix right here.
And you don't always need to have huge studio flash. You can have a flash with a small softbox. And especially with food, you don't need huge amount of lights. I mean, because it's quite tiny. So
Yep.
you don't need to spend huge amount of money on flash. You got so many good deals now for flash for sort of a couple of hundred. You get plenty.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another very heavy texture photograph here.
That we put some grass and ferns and stuff in ice in a tray. We let
Right.
it freeze, and when you take the thing out of the freezer, the heat make the eyes go white. And then I
Yep.
put a glass with a cocktail on it, and
And
I
I,
shot it.
and again, I think the color is amazing here. You have a really good sense of color mixing. I think that that's another way looking at it. And all the shots that you've done, it just got that. Yeah, exactly the word that you used earlier, harmony. Like it just works. It just even though they're contrasting each other, but that it works.
Yeah, I mean it's a question of looking at things and what goes with what. And I think the drink matched the fern. I did few shots because I wanted the bubble to be right. I didn't want it too many or not enough. So that's where I took time. The rest, I just saw the fern. I said, "This is great. Let's put a glass on it." It's a question of seeing things and train your eye to actually look at things. But
Yeah.
it's like sometimes I've got clients and things, or I've worked on some other shoot to help people, like. And I say, look, just look at what you want to do first. Spend some time on creating what you want to do with what. It's no point of doing 1,000 images. I mean, I was doing on a shoot the other day, and the clients say, how many pictures are you going to do? 100? I said, no, I'm going to do maybe 10. Oh, really? I said, yeah, but that you need 10. You don't need 100. And so many people shoot. It's not, I don't think it's the amount. It's either
Yeah.
you got 100 shots, which are different, which is difficult in a day. But I mean, it's about having the right shot, I think, to me. It's about having the right shot. So, yeah, you can, I mean, I shoot quite fast, but it's not about the quantity. It's about the quality of the shot and sort of thinking, okay, this is really a good shot. Because one shot is better than 5 average.
I think I've had the experience. I don't know whether other people have had this, where you go to somewhere amazing and you take 100 or 200 shots and you come away satisfied, but when you get home you realise they're all the same photograph, just from here or from here or from there, but they're the same photograph.
And I tell you,
very-
in a race, you always have one winner.
Yes.
You never think about the number 2. You always think about the winner.
True, yeah. But I sometimes feel, and I think I'm probably not alone, that it's become so easy to take a lot of photographs at no cost that we've had our attention taken away from what we should be photographing. Think,
it's
I've
very
taken
true what
100
you said.
photographs, I've done my job.
Because I think it's I think people who've learned like me, who did the carrier, most of it on film,
Yeah.
because it was film. Well, it was much cheaper than it is now, but we still had to carry it, bring it back. It was, filmed was not just a little card. We were trained not to shoot millions of things. It was, I mean, Helmut Newton, he does a couple of rolls,
Yeah.
120 on one shot. He didn't shoot millions of rolls, but everything is planned beforehand. And I think with digital, these disciplines disappeared a bit because it's free. You can shoot until the night comes down. And I still think the old ways. When I go, I mean, my shutter count is not huge on my cameras because I shoot, but I shoot what I need. I don't don't shoot like a, with motor drive and going mental.
Well, I mean, these days they have a term, say, spray and pray.
Spray and pray.
What is that? I don't know that expression.
I think as well, though, it's creatively very demoralizing to come back from a shoot and have to choose between 100 versions of the same photograph. It's not only tiring, you lose your feeling for the image because you become bored with it. It would be better just to have a couple of variations that you still love.
But it depends what you do, because if you talk about, for example, reportage, or especially sport photography, you need to shoot a lot.
You do, yeah.
Because, I mean, you need a motor drive 20 frames a second, because that's where you're going to get the shot.
Yeah.
You see, it depends what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, that one, for example,
this
one with the drink, well, I had to do few because, I really wanted to get the spray showing up, which was not obvious, to be away from the smoke. I wanted the smoke to be right, because I still wanted to see the drink. So then you have to take few, not because I need few, but because you want the smoke, which you cannot control, more or less, at the right spot. And basically, I tell you the story behind it. This is a cocktail with a bubble on it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you serve it to the client and there's a bubble. And then the client just wait and the bubble bursts and you got all the smoke going up. So it's more of a show.
Yeah.
So when we did the shot, you can imagine the bubble went either too early, too late. So then you got to use what you call a stroboscopic flash, where you shoot like 10 flash a second.
Yeah.
Because it's so fast that you need a lot of images, and then you get that. And even I wanted to get the burst of the bubble, and it was a bit messy actually. The next after that was nicer. That was a nicer shot.
That's good. And that's a truffle, right? That's
Yeah, it's a big truffle which I put on I put the truffle on a stand because I want it to be like it's almost like a meteorite arriving and exploding, it's almost like it's like a bit the sky with a I see a meteorite there. So I didn't want it to put it on the plate because it would have created too much of a strong shadow.
Yep.
As that's very simple. That's shot spirit of the moment. The guy was waiting and I came behind him and I saw it and then he moved. So that's something you get to observe in restaurants and waiters, what they do, and then
of course
the hand was right, the cloth was right.
Yeah. So go on, I'm going to change it a little bit. Yeah.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
No, go. Keep going. I'm just going to change the portfolio now.
Do you set about creating a story with details like this? Is that in your mind when you're shooting?
Well, I think all image create a story. It's just that, for example, on this one, I was, at some point they say, "Oh, Jean, can you take some pictures of the atmosphere of the kitchen and so on?" So basically, during service, which is the best time, because it's really rush hour, you always look at everything what's going on, and then it's all handheld there. Huh? There's no. So you can eventually put a couple of flash bouncing there and there in the kitchen, and then the rest, you just leave it to whatever you see, whatever you're going to grab, and it's moments, and it's furtive moment, and it's little vignettes of the service.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go on my website, I called one chapter, it's called Service, which is what makes a restaurant a restaurant. It's all about service. It's about what's happened before. It's almost like a play. You see the play for an hour and a half, but you don't see the whole rehearsing and the actors and the learning and the decor and all that's happened behind. A restaurant is the same. You see the plate on the food on the plate, and you eat and you enjoy it. But there's a huge amount of things happening behind.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that it's also part of what you do as well. Is not only just about the food, but also what's surrounding it. The coming and going of it, the preparation side of it. It's just like you know, some of these portrait work that I just changed the portfolio now. So this is your chef portraits series, which is, I find it quite fascinating as well, and especially how you position them, how you are positioning them, you know, in whatever background you have, and it just also in some way not only just shows the character of the chef, but also what they actually do, and that is actually quite interesting.
I mean, that was a series on butchers. So I spent 2 days in a cold room. I mean, that was cold. The whole day in the cold room. So I had all these different butchers came up, and I went them. I mean, I like the fact that they look like mass murderer. I love that.
He does. I didn't want to say it, but he did look like somebody I wouldn't want to be shot in a cold room with.
I love it. But that was inspired by the famous painting of Francis Bacon. You know, there's a pictures where there was, and I just wanted to replicate that because I had the chance to have those half cows, and there was about 10 of them, and I changed the meat on the left, I changed the meat on the right, but these are big piece of meat, and it's not light. You know, they are on hooks and stuff. But I really like the sort of atmosphere of very raw. It's very raw, and I like the lights. I mean, I actually brought a bit of blue in the post-processing to make it a bit more coldish and more. I like blue and green, you know, what you have sort of neon light.
Yeah, I can associate that, and but I do like how you're positioning the half beef at the back. You know, it almost looks like you know he's a butterfly in a way. He's got wings behind him.
Exactly.
You know, I'm the angel, but I'm cutting everything up.
Angel of death.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at the next one here. And everyone should recognize him, right?
Marcus Waring, is it?
Exactly. That was when he was at in Chelsea, in Mayfair. I don't remember the name of the restaurant. And I like those circles. And sometimes there's not much, and you have to do the portrait, and you have to sort of grab what's around to try to create a dynamic or create some kind of image.
Yeah.
And I did like those things and half of his, and it just, I mean, the only thing I would do, I mean, I like the shot, the only thing I wish I did, it's his hands. I wish I put his arm a bit more on the right so we could have seen the fingers. That's the only thing which bugs me, the fact we don't see the fingers. But I like the image otherwise.
Yeah.
That's again,
interesting. Yeah.
It's, what's her name? Oh gosh, my memories. She's a famous English chef doing Italian food.
I'm not good with chef name. My wife would probably know. I know she watched a lot of Celebrity Chef, whatever, you know, those programs.
It's very embarrassing doing a YouTube and not remembering a chef. She's very famous, and she's very good.
It's another photograph with a question. It's the question isn't like at the front. It's not like forced on you, but there's another photograph with the detail you look at, and it makes you think, oh, what's this? Why has that happened? What's going on here?
Yeah, and I like this sort of, I like to create this thing, whenever possible, where you wonder why is the glass on the side? Why, you know? But
why it's still got bits of it in there?
Visual.
Yes.
See, for example, the hands on her face is to match the background.
Yes.
Yes,
and
that's basically the drawing of a piece of butter. You know, when the butter is
curled. Yeah.
Interesting. And I like this. I really like this. As a portrait guy, I like this.
That's Pierre Gagnère again. I love Pierre Gagnère, which I love with him. Every shot you do, it's a winner because he moves with his hands. He speaks with his hands a lot. Right. He put his hand in his hair. He put his hand on his face. He's got amazing hands. And every time I was clicking, there was something, and I said, "Oh my God, this is just great!" It was just coming, and I love the light on his nose.
Yes.
And this sort of thinking, what am I going to do next? And yeah, I really like that portrait and his hair and the texture. That's a very sort of side light again.
Yep.
Softbox.
Very good. I like this too. That's a cute one.
Yeah, he was not supposed to be in, and I said, "Oh, let's put it in." It's quite fun actually to have the sous chef holding the reflector.
Yeah.
That's Marianne. She had a restaurant. She had the smallest restaurant in London a few years ago, and that was a back muse. And I really like the blue coming out of the trouser because again everything is monochromic.
Yes. Yes. I like that. I like that a lot.
That's sort of
This says something about the power of the chef, doesn't it?
yeah. That
In
Eyes
the-
Like
in the
Ace, which
kitchen.
is a restaurant I mentioned earlier in Old Street, which is a Michelin restaurant. And that was the you remember The Cook, the Wife, and His Lover, this film from
Peter Greenaway. Yes.
Peter
yeah,
Greenaway. That's a
yeah.
very Peter Greenaway image.
It
Yep.
is,
And-
isn't it? Yes.
He's like a dreamer, and these two guys sort of preparing, and you
Yeah,
see
heads
what's going on
down.
there.
Are
Is he going to
are
get
you
the
a-
head? It's like, you know, when people went to the guillotine to get their head chopped off during the French Revolution. They've got their head bending like they were going to be like. I mean, it's whatever you want to think, but it's a bit sort
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
There's a story
yeah.
going on there. Somehow.
Are you a Peter Greenaway fan? Jean?
I love him. I love it.
Because his the way he stages his scenes
It's
and the
incredible.
colours and the precision, I can see a parallel with how you work. Everything.
I mean,
is
I love
staged
his work. All his
meticulously.
films. All his
Yeah.
films are amazing, and they're so.
They are.
I mean, they're paintings.
Yeah, yeah.
And this shot is also quite good as well. How are those pots behind being arranged to
Yes.
to present this way? Because
I
you know,
did,
like
I
it,
did.
yeah, it's good. It's good. It's almost like, you know, what's that picture in Game of Thrones? You know, the program. You know, it's got these swords at the back. You know, like all panning out. And in this case, it's all pans and pots, you know, behind, and he's holding the knife, which I think is brilliant.
I love the chromes,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I like the tattoos, and his sort of his look looks like a murderer, basically.
Yeah, don't. It just tells you, go to a nice restaurant. Don't complain about the food.
But it's funny because he's a very sweet guy.
Is it?
He was
Right.
very sweet.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. And that's one here. Where is this one here?
That's in
Is that a shot? No, that's not.
yeah, it's Manchester,
Oh, Manchester.
and
Right,
it's
right.
a big restaurant at the top of a building, which is called. It's part of the Caprice Holding Group
Right.
in Manchester, and that's why you got this amazing view.
Yeah.
And there was a photographer who died, unfortunately, a few years ago,
Right.
which was a great inspiration of mine, and when I was studying and even after, called Brian Griffin.
Oh, Brian
And
Griffin.
I love
yes.
Brian Griffin.
Yes.
Brian
yes.
Griffin has always been sort of part of my top 10 photographers I always love, because it's the absurdity of certain things. He puts things in a situation where again, it's a question mark. You think, why? And he was giving people position where why are they in this position? And
Yeah.
he was working for a magazine that I work as well, with Roland Cheng, which was a very famous at the time creative director. And we're doing all these portraits where we had to shoot businessmen with sometimes, you know, a businessman. What are you going to do
Yeah.
with him? So we created those sort of, with the light and the position, putting them in situation you think, what the hell, why? And it makes you think, and I like that shot for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think-
yeah.
Sort of, there's those clouds in the background and him bending over the glass. You don't know exactly what he's doing. You know,
But
and
it
I like
seems-
the
It seems to say a great deal about him that a simple portrait would not have done. It makes him appear to be a very fastidious man. For
Yeah, I
whom
mean,
every
he was a
detail
very
has to be
happy-
right.
He's a very, very happy man, but
Mm.
he always had some amazing clothes, as you call it, suits.
Yep.
But you see, if he did look at me, it would have been a nice shot, but I didn't need to create something else.
Yeah.
So that
yeah.
those shots takes a bit more time, because you got to go through 2-3 ideas, and it works, it doesn't work. Then you move the light, and you think, okay, good. And then the cloud
Right.
coming, I say that's good. And then on post, I brought more blue in it, and look at the glass. You got to take few shots there to just get the right
Yeah.
thing. Put your hand behind your back. Before he did have the hand on the table, which didn't work. So that's sort of try and tested. situation.
Yeah.
Same as here. It was I had to shoot all these different part of the restaurant. The guy was the wine, the waiters, the chef, and so on. And he's a sommelier, the guy who does all the wine. And he's listening to the music of the wine. You know, sometimes when you were a kid, you used to say, "Oh, listen to the shell. You're going to hear the sea."
Yeah.
And I say, "Well, listen to the glass. You're going to hear something, or maybe that's it's a joke, really."
The idea.
But I like the way you look at the glass, thinking, "Am I hearing something? What's going to happen?" You don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna also change again. So this is the end of your portrait. So we probably can't go through all of it, but then I just want to bring in maybe some of your recent work. I'm just trying to see now. So these are the portrait work that you've done, and maybe some of those that you've done recently, and these ones.
This was part of an exhibition I did last year.
Yeah. Okay, let me just bring that in. Just 1 second. There we go. And here we go.
So that gentleman is a Somalian guy who lives where we live in Notting Hill, which is a lot of Caribbean and a lot of that's the community around here. And I met him. He's an amazing man, and he loves colors, and he helps people. He's a great, and he had all these suits of different colors. And I said, "Look, we should take some pictures together." And he's been photographed a lot, but he's always been photographed, in the street of Portobello, or laughing away or sitting down. And I said, "Look, I'm going to study you like an object with your suit, and we're going to create a very graphic image each time and create some stories." So we did 15 over the year, and I did an exhibition last year in June last year, and that's part of the one I really like. So that was the first one. That's another one because I like butterfly.
I can also sense the creativity from your food photography. It's also applying in here as well. The choice of colors, the positioning, the framing, and also there's little side dishes, the little that you put on the side of the subject is really brilliant.
But for me, like I said before, it doesn't really matter whether it's a plate, a person, or a mountain. I treat it exactly the same way.
Yeah,
it's to create an image which got a kind of make you think in a way. A lot with landscape, sometimes it's more difficult. So you play on it's either graphic or the subject matter.
Yeah.
And the butterfly, you see, if it was just against the blue background, that would be okay. I think the butterfly brings some things.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's a very interesting remark you made as well about treating people like objects. I mean, obviously, in certain contexts, you wouldn't say that, but I think photographically, that's a really interesting. That's a really interesting proposition, and I think you have to think that way to get striking photographs. You have to remember everything you photograph is an object, as you say.
Yeah, but you have to, because Annie Leibovitz said it. I think it was Annie Leibovitz who said it. I mean, you can't expect when you meet someone, even so you've got some info about them, in the space of half an hour, 15 minutes, a morning, sometime a day. If you're Annie Leibovitz, you got that. To try to sort of show the emotion and you can't do that. You can only shoot the person in front of you for what you may think they are, or and try to do your style. Now, once you know the person, you can read through them. But when you don't know the person, I think that's why Annie Leibovitz is doing all these funny shots she did at the beginning, with John Lennon and Yoko Ono, and all those pictures of John Cleese upside down like a bat and thing, because I think pushing people to do silly things sometimes, or crazy things, it shows their openness to go forward. So it's always good to try to push people to do a little bit more. And sometimes when I was shooting portraits, you start with the safe shots, and then if you get a bit more time and they like you, then you think, oh, would you mind doing a headstand and juggling with 3 birds or something?
Absolutely. I think in portrait especially that you you do need the trust from both sides, right? It can't be just one-sided. No matter how strong you are as a photographer, you also need the subject to cooperate, to trust you, to be able to deliver. And then once that bond established, and then you can do literally anything you want.
But sometimes it's very difficult because, when you take well-known people, I used to do that a lot for editorial. I did a lot of editorial and well-known people. And these people are used to photographers and so on. And we all are people with cameras. And for them, they can't create a bond with everybody. And
no,
you got to be quick. And it's not a question of being nice, but you just try to use the right words to,
of course,
quite quickly to create a dynamic. So you're going to get the shot that you want to do or as close as possible.
Yes.
And that's not always easy.
Yeah,
and some people are easy, and some people read you. Some people are more difficult.
Yeah,
that's the way it is.
Of course, that's my daily game. But and just one final word from me about this image. I like the positioning of it. I don't know whether you guys actually see that. I'm moving my cursor on the mouse at the moment. You see the line here really lines up the blue in the hat here. It's perfect. If a fraction over to the left or fraction to the right will be completely ruining the picture. I think this is like really good.
Even the butterfly, I move them around.
Yeah.
I put them in different places, and the hands, and sometimes he looked at me straight. So when you do this sort of shoot, you do few. You do like because sometimes the one you think about is not the right one, and then it will be one which you shoot at the end or something.
Yeah,
which is what portraiture is good at.
So that's fun.
That's what. Yeah, that it was really great because we shot that about 9:30 in the morning.
Right.
And I put a cohiba in his mouth, and he said, "It's no problem, Jean." I said, "Are you sure? It's very strong." He said, "No, it's fine." And he was puffing away. I mean, I would have been sick death with that thing. But I really wanted to have the smoke to be right.
Yeah.
And that's all in the street, by the way.
Oh, right. Okay.
I've got a black velvet.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
Which I put on 2 stands, but that's pure daylight. There's nothing else.
So this is just daylight. There's not no flash there.
It's pure daylight.
Right.
I'm in the street, basically.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I don't know why I did that. It's a double. It's 2 pictures in one.
Yeah.
So I've got twice more or less the same shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same shot, but I overlap them and just give them a little. When you were kids, you used to have a kaleidoscope. This thing you look and turn it, and you got this thing.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, it reminded me of that. I said, "Oh, I'm going to do the same effect." It plays on your eyes.
Yes, it does.
So it's the same shot, but I just move it a little bit on the suit, on the face. I tried to match it, so it was just like that, not like that.
Yeah, that's good. Brilliant. Is it on the street as well? This was got velvet at the back as well.
Yeah, it's all on the street. It's all at the same spot. It was in a tiny little sort of a muse entrance with a black door.
Right.
And opposite, the light was bouncing on the white building. And I said, "Oh my God, this is perfect for me."
Right.
And it was pure daylight. And it was even.
Very good.
That was somewhere else in Notting Hill. And I like Magritte. And Magritte, the guy with the apple in front of his face.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a... You see, as I said before, paintings are sort of quite... have an importance. I mean, I love painting, and I like sometimes I take some painters and I just get an idea from them and just sort of redo it when the occasion comes.
Right.
I think as well, even if your audience doesn't have the kind of education where they can recognize an artist, they have seen that painting somewhere, so get that kind of echo in their minds.
Yeah. That was obviously Hamlet,
Very good.
Shakespeare had this skull, and I always wanted to use that skull
Hamlet.
for something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very interesting. And now we're reaching probably towards the end of our chat. Otherwise, I know as much as I would like to continue, I'm pretty sure that everyone was starting to feel a little bit tired. But then we are going to be talking a little bit about, just to wrap this up, and just to talk a little bit about maybe on the technical side. So earlier I highlighted a few comments from the audience, and one of them from Jeff again. I'm going to just put on the screen so you can read about that as well. So about your influence, is there any particular names that you that has kind of like impact your photography journey?
There's a lot of photographers I liked. A lot of them happen to be fashion photographers. Like, and they're funny enough, they are not people who influence me. It's just I love them. Like Peter Lindbergh, which I love, Newton Bourdin. I like photographers who do things where, as I said before, you think about it. You think about the image, or there's something quirky or funny and things like that. I like a lot. I mean, I like Penn, of course. I like Avedon. It was my generation. In the new generation, I like. He worked in Vogue. I should have done a list of people I like. That's crazy. Where you've got elements of fun.
Yep.
And like for example, of Italian Vogue in the 2090s. Were amazing. Each issue of the Italian Vogue were just incredible. I mean, it was you were buying the magazine. It was like a book of imagery. Now you've got fashion image and everything. But Steven Meisel, Mario Sorrenti. Mario Sorrenti is an amazing photographer who has come with a story which is very different. So they're not photographers who directly inspired me as such, but I like their imagery. And that gives me idea for other things.
Okay.
But sorry.
Jean, could you help me with my French? So that question from Jeff about French documentary and street photographers. Robert Doisneau. I'm not Doisneau. No S. Yeah. Robert Doisneau. Got it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, Robert Doisneau I like Robert Doisneau. I love Brassailles.
Yes.
I mean, that was Paris at night. Yeah. Willy Ronis. Yeah, I like all. They classic. It's like your classic literature. You know, you can't not like them. They're part of your education. That's you grow. Yeah. You know, I hope the young generation studying now photography still study those guys because they're still there. You know, I know it was in the 50s, 60s, but I know things have changed. But I think they're part of. The writing of the image writing of the time, and you learn a lot.
I think as well. Very often you look back on these photographs and you realise these people were taking photographs that people have stopped taking, and suddenly they seem fresh again. It's a strange thing.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a fact that since the digital came up, all of a sudden there is a revamp for black and white. A lot of people say prints. It's almost like classic photography, bromide paper. It's better.
I mean, I guess there's there's only my personal opinion, and obviously color, even in films, it becomes so popular. Literally in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, and like 99% of the photograph you see are colors, and then and when digital comes along, and there's an explosion of the number of images available to everybody, and like suddenly you go online, and also that's when the internet boom is coming as well. So like people are starting to have the smartphones and devices that can access the internet. They're starting seeing even more images, but they're all colors. So suddenly black and white becoming a rarity, and suddenly things that done in black and white catches a lot more attention. And I think that that's when people are starting to, just do a little bit of reverse psychology there. Okay, let's do a little bit of things that nobody else does at the time, like, black and white photography is kind of like a cool thing because no one else does it. Everything's in colors.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if people do that because it's cool. I think black and white, when I shoot black and white, it's because I feel like it works better in black and white than color. I don't do black and white because it's cool. It's
no.
It's just sometimes I shoot things and I think, oh, this is really working in black and white much better than color.
I think what Jimmy's getting at is Instagram trends. They're constantly shifting.
Okay. Yeah.
But personally, I find black and white easier than color because I find I can express a thing better in black and white. Color adds a thing I'm not so good at managing. Not like you, Jean. Color for me,
It's funny.
It throws another thing in that I have to try and accommodate.
When I started Portraiture at the beginning of my career, I was shooting only black and white. Okay. And then I moved to 5.4. I was going on shoots with my 5.4, my class, my bucket, and I was shooting Polaroid type 55, which is you could get the negative, and I really liked that. So when I was arriving on a shoot with my 5.4, people were like, "Wow, it's with a bucket and everything." And then eventually people said, "Jean, you should really shoot in color because, you open your more work for you." No, portrait is black and white, and I was like you. I had this, and then I realized, I said, "God, I'm stupid. I should really do color because I'm cutting myself of a lot of work." And then I started to do color, and then I was shooting color, but I said, okay, if I'm going to do color, I need to have some elements, a reason for it. So I was mixing both.
Yeah.
And I think color black and white, there's always one who's going to win when you get two images. It's going to be better one way or the other usually. But sometimes you think and you lit a bit different when you do color and when you lit for black and white.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned about, like two versions, and one version is always wins, But imagine, back in the days in films, you shot in black and white film, you're stuck with the black and white, right? So when you put the black and white roll in your camera, you will think black and white when you go and shoot because that's what you put in the camera, right? These days we had the luxury of converting, because we shot in color, we can have color, or you just convert it back to black and white, so you get the best of everything, right? And so I guess it's also complicating a lot of things as well. We have a choice now, but in the past, we don't have a choice. We plan it. We deliberately take the black and white out because we want black and white shots.
Yeah. But, there's this trend now of, William Eccleston, the famous William Eccleston, who's coming back to, popularity as a high level. And I was mentioning at some point, you liked it or you don't. It's not my cup of tea personally. I admire what he did and how he did it. At the time he did it, he had, the sign age was better than now. You have some amazing cars. You don't have Prius. People were dressed nicely. They were not dressed in the tracksuit bottom. It was different. But what I'm saying, there's this new wave of photography now you can see on the streets, of colors coming back, and all those apps create, all those cameras with sort of, you can go through about 25 different tonality. And then some people say they almost shoot for that tonality to create that thing. And when you look at Instagram, you see the sort of very pastel color coming back all the time. You think, this is a new thing. And it's almost like the reverse of what you should. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Instead of adding something, you shoot for that thing to match.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. Right. I some people might argue with me, and I'm happy to hear about it.
I think people use filters to try to create a difference between them and others, but they're not concentrating on the subject. They're just concentrating on the effects.
And sometimes it's a very random pictures, and sometimes it's very sometimes I look at magazine, I'm thinking, shit, what is this? And then people are really sort of celebrating it, thinking, this is such a great shot. And you think, I don't see anything in it. But that's me, again. I'm not, everybody to their own thing.
It's a very subjective thing, photography.
Completely.
People want it to be a science, but how you appreciate photographs is not a science. It's subjective.
Of course.
I'm going to Arles next month, the photographic festival.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I've never been, so I'm really looking forward to go there and see exactly what's going to be on the wall.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. We could do another YouTube on that.
It will
sure.
vary in quality.
Sure. Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up very soon. So maybe we just got one more question from Jeff again. I think that probably a few of you might be quite keen to learn of. It's about gear, right? And the question is, what camera and lenses do you use for your food shots? Obviously, it might change over time, but what's the thing that you use majority of the time?
When I was on the RZ, the Mamiya RZ, it was a medium format. I used the 110, which is equivalent to 80, I think. So
Right.
80, I think 85 is the lens I would use.
Okay.
I love the 200.
Right.
Funny enough,
Right.
I
Okay.
like when things are squashed.
Yep.
Like when I do interior, for example, I don't use wide angle too much. I try to go as far as possible and using a longer lens because it's sort of make it more intimate. It makes things more together. I don't like the wide. You see, I think wide angle. If you don't see it's a wide angle, that's great. As soon as you see that you use a wide angle, then I think to me it's. It's like you take a woman. She's beautiful. She's made up and everything.
Yep.
If she's got too much makeup, you can say, oh, that's a pity, she's got too much makeup. But that's for me the wide angle. If you start to see the wide angle before the picture, and sometimes you see pictures and you think, oh, that's been shot on that. And I think it's nice to have a lens which match what you're shooting.
Yeah.
So obviously if you use a long lens, it's going to squash things, so it's going to be a long lens. But I would say, to answer your question, I think an 85, 85.
Yep.
And with the 85, you can come close, you can go back, you can do everything.
Yes.
What I'm asking on behalf of the audience, Jean, what camera do you shoot with?
Oh my God, I went through a lot. Jesus.
Did you?
Yeah, I had
That's all
Hasselblad.
right. Nobody will be upset then. That's good.
I had a lot. I used to shoot mainly on Mamiya RZ and Hasselblad.
All right.
And then I had a few Canons. And now I shoot on this Nikon Z7 II.
Right.
Z7 II. Yeah.
It's really good.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Really easy.
Yeah.
You can really concentrate on what you do.
Yeah.
That's like using an iPhone.
Yep.
You pick it up and shoot.
Yeah.
Everything is great. No, it's really good.
Lenses are pretty good too. I haven't tried them all, but they're pretty consistent.
Yes.
They're very
Well,
sharp.
that's always what Nikon's.
sharp.
It's always what Nikon's known about. Their lenses are always very, very good. That's without a doubt.
I think they're almost too sharp.
Too sharp. It's a thing with digital though, isn't it? That sometimes the clarity is a bit too much, and it's hard to take it away, really.
Well, it's optimized for sensors, right? Yeah.
The film had some kind of a milky feel.
Yeah.
Before, now it's a bit too.
People starting to use black mist filters to kind of get softer highlights, but I don't know if they go too far. But if I can, I've got one very nerdy question for you, if you don't mind. Are you a Capture One ambassador still?
Yeah. I was for. I mean, I'm just going to stop. I mean, it's going to because it lasts a certain amount of time. I think it's amazing, Capture One. For me, I've always used it since it was launched. When you shoot tethered, sort of your camera to your computer, so it means when you click, you see the picture on your computer.
Yeah.
It's just amazing because now they change the program all the time. They upgrade, and I shoot on that. Then I put it in TIFFs, put it through Photoshop. There's hardly any things to do. The program is so good. I mean, I know people like Lightroom, which is fine. I mean, everybody do their own thing. As long as you're happy with what you use. I love Capture One. I know Capture One well, and it's a great program. It's what it does. It's very user friendly, like Apple.
Yeah.
But it's like everything. You need to know it. But then it's good. It's like
course.
Photoshop.
Yeah.
I think my feeling is the Capture One handles colors differently to Lightroom. When you start adjusting the colors, it feels to me as if it's more elegant and more subtle. Whereas if I do the same things in Lightroom, suddenly everything goes very artificial. I know Lightroom probably better than I know Capture One. I just have a feeling that if it's not a silly thing to say, Capture One understands what I'm trying to do. Whereas with Lightroom, I'm constantly having to juggle things.
But it's funny because, I mean, the people I know work professionally.
Yeah.
Most of them use Capture One.
Right.
I mean, to when it's tethered. I know that Lightroom is good for cataloging. To put things, which Capture One I don't believe do. Some people use both. I mean, really, it's whatever fits for what you want.
What works for you? Yeah, what works for you? Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, to me, it's just another tool for having what you want, really.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm a Lightroom because I do shoot a lot. So like, I mean, I got higher volume. So like categorizing and all this organizational tool in the Lightroom is better for my case, and that's really it really, and that's why I keep using Lightroom is because of that reasons. I can keyword and everything. Like it's quite easy to find things, or organize the volume, so to speak. So we've got another.
But I think the more we go, the more the two link. Capture One I think is going more towards Lightroom. I think Lightroom picks up things from Capture One. I think they both learn from each other, and at one point they're going to be just one.
Probably.
The color you like,
Well, if you look at all the digital softwares now, like whether it's going to be on one, Capture One, Affinity, all the others that. If you look at it, the evolutions of the softwares in each generations, they are becoming closer and closer to each other. In terms of features, even look and feel. You look at the sidebar. The menu buttons, everything. They look almost identical now. I don't know whether they do it deliberately, trying to sway people over. It's like, you don't need a new learning curve because it look exactly like your Lightroom. It just come over.
I think. I mean, when I was with Capture One, they were asking me, "Oh, what would you like to change? What would you like to do? What can they keep, because there's few photographers who it's like a Fuji, they've got ambassadors, and they ask the ambassadors, okay, what would you like to change? And I told them, I said, oh, if you could add this, or you could add that, or that would be good. Oh, okay. And strangely enough, I think Lightroom is much more used worldwide than Capture One.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny. Yeah, sorry. It's funny you mentioned that because I've never asked what I want for my camera for OM system.
No. Yeah. Have you not? Oh, that's a shame.
No, unfortunately.
Do Olympus give you cameras and stuff?
In the old days, I would say yes, and then these days, I still get perks, but it's not free anymore. So let's put it that way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
A friend of mine has got Leica gears for free.
I mean, I think a lot of the ambassadorship programs are like that now. I don't think they give you free gears anymore. And I know Fuji used to give you free cameras as well. So that if you're Fuji ambassador, they give you like free X Pro and free this and free that.
That's good.
But these days, I think they give you like there's heavily discounted prices or and things like that. Yeah.
But you see now. If I change my gears, I would definitely get the GFX 100. Because that's really your cake and eat it. I mean, you've got medium format in a small package. The lenses are good.
They are. They're very good. Yeah.
I like GFX.
Yeah. So do I. I just can't afford one.
Fuji, please send us a camera.
Right. Okay. So that I guess that's probably the time we have, and I know there are a couple of more questions literally just popped up, but my last question before we end today's chat is, what's next for you, Jean? And then so now you literally done everything now. And I know you're doing a lot of personal projects. You started to have running a few exhibitions here and there. So what's the next things that you want to do as a photographer?
I mean, I love interiors. This is something I always loved. And I was talking to a client yesterday where I'm going to work soon. It's to try to do more beautiful interiors. I mean, it's more a pleasure for myself now than just for clients. Right. I mean, clients, you're happy to. But it's doing personal projects, going through. I'm doing this one on which is going to be an exhibition next year, on another subject, which is pictures of London at night, which is completely different from what I've done. But that is based on Edward Hopper paintings.
Right.
And
Okay.
I started, and I said, oh, that's really interesting. And then I went through the motion, and I'm going to carry on this winter because I need the light to come at 3-4 o'clock.
Yep. Yep.
And that I really enjoy. So really now it's about, what inspired me, and just, but it's always an element of series, an element of collection of images, an element
Yep.
of keeping the discipline going. Of course, when you go traveling, you take pictures. I always do take pictures because almost traveling and pictures goes hand in hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like
yeah,
the
yeah.
element where you follow a line.
Yep.
So like I
Right.
did with Jama, I did, okay, we're going to do a series. And then it gives you, it's almost like when you're commissioned, it gives you a certain discipline to follow. Because if it's like, I was talking to this client yesterday and we're saying, when you've got carte blanche, which is totally free,
Yep.
it's almost scary because you think, wow,
Yeah.
you need a bit of, gates to, because otherwise
Yeah.
it can be anything. So carrying on, it's taking pictures basically of anything and carrying on doing projects. I think mainly projects, that's what I like. And I was
Okay.
thinking, I've got people calling me for one-to-ones, which is really nice. I like to sort of pass on and sort of showing how you look at things and how
Yep.
you
Yep.
you approach things, because I think sometimes I had people say, oh yeah, I've been to college, but they didn't show me that, they show me this technical. And I think the learning how to try to sharpen your vision, and which is my only vision, it can be everybody's got different vision. I
Yep,
think it's
yep.
something who should come into the teaching more than just
Yeah.
going through a program and things.
Sure. Sure.
It's like coaching, you got this coaching system where you got to follow it. I say, no, sometimes it's just passing on a feeling,
Yep.
and then you train on that. It's like people who've been working with some people for a long time, or it's like you as a writer. If you've been writing with, there's some writers you really like, you will be automatically influenced by the sort of writer, or you'll be
You are, yes, yeah.
going in that vein. And
Yeah.
that's good, because afterwards you develop your own. I think the idea is to develop your own style,
Yep.
but you're helped by all your learning in the past,
Sure. Of course.
instead of copying a trend. Because this thing of trend now, it's like the trend for this, the trend for that. And I don't think we had
Yes,
that
yeah.
before. I don't
No, I
so.
think that is something missing from the system, something that encourages people to understand their own ideas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone's taught how to do things, but they're not taught why to do things or how to develop creatively. It's almost as if people don't want to approach it because it's a bit too difficult. It's not scientific.
Yeah, and I always say to follow your heart and follow
Yes, yeah.
your
Yes.
art. Not always be. I know it's difficult because now you're bombarded with Instagram, social, what's in fashion, what is not fashion. Then 2 months later, it's gone. Just do your own thing, and you got to take pleasure in what you do first and foremost. And then
Yeah.
people will like that. They engage
Yep.
with that within a certain
Absolutely.
field.
Absolutely. I mean,
And then,
but I think what you said is always is right. Follow your heart. Do what you want, what you love, and it's not just for the likes on social media.
Yeah, you got to enjoy the moment.
Yeah,
Because sometimes you take one shot, you've got it.
Yep.
I mean,
And
when you got that
photography
shot, I
photography is
remember
about
I was
fun,
in-
right? You take photograph to bring smile to you, not to others. Like if you're happy, you naturally make happy photos. So it's as simple as that.
and sometimes you just need one. I mean, I was in America last year, and I did a lot of pictures, but there was two, which was really, that was my trip. I mean, when you hit the mark, that's it. I mean, that's
You know, usually.
Yeah, and you don't need to do
You know.
1,000 because you never do 1,000 anyway. You do.
No.
But it's to find your way, your own way, really.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's very wise word. And on that note, if anyone wants to do a one-to-one with Jean, his website and his detail is in the description below, so you can always click on his website and check out his work. I'm sure it's worth a visit, as you can see the images that we displayed today. And I mean, it's just fantastic to have you on the show, and I'm hoping to carry on this series. And Jean, just welcome. If you want to come back, just before your next exhibitions, to talk a little bit about your project and things like that, you're very welcome to come back. back and talk a little bit about your upcoming exhibitions, so people get a little bit of the behind the scene things, and maybe even preview a couple of the images before they head on to the exhibition. That'll be quite cool as well. And very, very interesting to have you and talk about everything in photography. It's really fun, and I'm sure everyone who's listening or even haven't joined us live and listening back later, hope you guys will enjoy it today as well. And it's been fascinating. I hope this is an inspiring journey for some of you, maybe even to try out food photography. Some of the techniques that we have talked about in today's shows, even though not really a technical teaching kind of session, but some ideas at least, using flash and diffusers and using the lights, the colors, the coordination of certain things, and some of the images of the display. Hopefully these are all inspirational elements for all of you to learn a little bit about photography, because I think, to sum it up, photography is such a broad subject, right? It's really interesting because you can approach it in so many different ways. Even though like Jean, he has his distinctive style, but you can approach this very differently, for the same subject, and it can be equally inspiring and fun and creative as well. So it's all down to the person, like what Jean has said. Find your own way, find your own creativity, and apply it to your photography and make your own images. And that's really the summary of I think today's chat. So thank you very much, Jean. And
thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, really enjoy it. Stick around. We'll just have a couple of words after the ending of the show and just say goodbye to you properly. But we're going to say goodbye to everybody who's listening right now. And do join us next week, and also subsequent a series of the interview series. We're going to interview a lot more photographers from different backgrounds, from different genre of photography, and hopefully we're going to do something in landscape, in architectures, in drone photography, things like that. If anything specific, any names that comes to mind, please do let me know. I'll try to contact these people. Hopefully they'll come onto the show and talk to you guys as well. So thank you very much for joining, and we will all speak to you very soon. Bye for now.
Take care, guys. Bye bye.